Chapter 1498. Yi Qing Luo's hand retracted backwards. Chu Wuxian's grip tightened. That long slender fingers gently covered that circle of cherry blossom pattern. That pair of icy cold eyes actually at this moment. Like a sacred lotus melting on the snow mountain. And mixed with a trace of gentleness. Gentleness. These two words had nothing to do with Chu Wuxin. But at this moment, it really appeared on Chu Wuxian's face. Towards this, Yi Qing Luo only had one feeling. It was too freaking horrifying. Chu Wuxian's gaze didn't seem like he was looking at a god relic, but looking at something that had existed in his memory for a long time. That kind of deep affection. Not waiting for Yi Qing Luo to think of how to deal with Chu Wuxian. Then she saw a pair of eyes filled with tenderness and affection looking at her. It's indeed you. It's you. Chu Wuxian's face surfaced a smile as his eyes fixed on her. This birthmark, other than you, who else has it? Birthmark? Yi Qing Luo shot a glance at the cherry blossom pattern on the azure dew bracelet. Chu Wuxian treated it as her birthmark? What did he mean by that? This was obviously the mark of the azure dew bracelet. In this world, she should be the only one who had this kind of cherry blossom pattern, right? In this era, cherry blossom seemed to be an extremely rare flower. Most of them had never even seen it before. And the meaning behind Chu Wuxian's words was obviously to say that the cherry blossom pattern which he had seen before was not intentionally drawn by a lady to look good, but a birthmark imprinted on the skin. Which meant to say, Chu Wuxian didn't recognize the wrong person? She really was the person Chu Wuxian was looking for? But why was there no memory of Chu Wuxian at all in her memories? You're mine. The smile on Chu Wuxian's face gradually turned a little stubborn. He muttered to himself as he hugged Yi Qing Luo tightly in his arms. After a few investigations and a few tests, Wang Chong had no idea what was going on. He finally confirmed that Yi Qing Luo was the girl whom he knew that year. At this moment, after he saw that unique birthmark on Yi Qing Luo's wrist, he was even more certain. She was indeed the Yi Qing Luo whom he was looking for. The Yi Qing Luo whom he had promised to marry as his wife. Yi Qing Luo's entire body was hurting from his hug as she struggled with all her might, and even used her profound qi to attack, but she was unable to struggle free from Zhu Wuxian, who seemed to have fallen into a demonic barrier. She listened to Zhu Wuxin repeat the words "you are mine" over and over again. Yi Qing Luo's heart shuddered for no reason. Why do I feel like such a Zhu Wuxin caused her heart to palpitate? Let me go. Zhu Wuxin. Her struggle made Zhu Wuxian hug her even more tightly. Yi Qing Luo, I'm here to keep my promise. After we leave this place, we'll get married. Marriage? Yi Qing Luo was completely stunned. Zhu Wuxian, are you King sick? Who wants to marry you? Let me go. His free hand immediately took out the glowing flame fan. She unfurled her glowing flame fan, and two silver threads shot out from it, sinking straight into Zhu Wuxin's shoulder. Let go. She snapped a warning. However, Chu Wuxian only gave a dull moan, as he had no intention of letting go of Yi Qing Luo. He hugged her tightly, so tightly that Yi Qing Luo had no way to make any large-scale movements. Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes were illuminated by the flames as it sparkled. Looking at Zhu Wuxian, who had no intention of letting go. She clenched her teeth as she activated the glowing flame fan's silver threads, sinking deeper into Zhu Wuxian's body. Chapter 1499. I won't let go. I won't let go again. Zhu Wuxian's voice was actually trembling slightly. Trembling? Even a person like Chu Wuxin would tremble? Yi Qing Luo's fingers, which were gripping the glower flame fan, loosened. Why was he so stubborn? Even if he was pierced by her silver threads, he was unwilling to let go of her. What had happened between them in the past? As a result, Zhu Wuxin's obsession with her had already penetrated deep into his bones. Yi Qing Luo, you are destined to be mine. This is the promise we made. Suddenly, Zhu Wuxian's gaze deeply locked onto Yi Qing Luo's face. Let's get married. His eyes were clear. It was extremely clear. It didn't contain any impurities. He wanted to marry her. That was his only thought at this moment. This kind of gaze made Yi Qingluo's heart feel slightly cold. Impossible. She rejected him without any hesitation as her charming eyes were suffused with a cold glint. Zhu Wu Exane, no matter what we had in the past, it will only be in the past. The person I love is only DMO Xian. The person I choose will only be DMO Xian. She was DMO Xian's woman. She loved DMO Xian deeply. No matter what happened in the past, the only person she loved and wanted to marry was only DMO Xian. Perhaps it was the mention of the name DMO Xian. Zhu Wuxin's body gradually stiffened. He slowly loosened his grip on Yi Qingluo as he pulled apart the distance between them. Yi Qingluo was delighted, thinking that he had regained his senses. At the next instance, Zhu Wu Exion's hand grabbed onto Yi Qingluo's neck. His slender fingers clasped tightly around her neck. His handsome face once again returned to its frozen expression. DMO Xian? A cold voice came out from Zhu Wu Exion's mouth. As he spoke, his fingers gradually tightened. Yi Qingluo suddenly felt a suffocating feeling. She reached out and grabbed Zhu Wuxin's wrist, struggling with all her might. You belong to me. You can only be mine. Zhu Wuxin narrowed his eyes, killing intent faintly flashing in them. If you can't keep your promise to me, then I'll use destruction to end everything. The tightness on Yi Qingluo's neck made her even more dizzy. Her hand slid down from Zhu Wuxin's arm. Damn it! Zhu Wuxin really wanted to kill her. This lunatic. Did he want to die with her? Yi Qingluo tried her best to adjust the profound qi in her body, trying to suppress Zhu Wu Exien. She did not want to die with Zhu Wu Exien like this. The brothers were still waiting for her. Xian was still waiting for her. Thinking of this, Yi Qingluo worked hard to concentrate her mind, mobilizing the profound qi in her profound jade heart, and communicating with Qi. As long as he caught Zhu Wuxin off guard, Qi launched an attack. He would definitely be able to restrain Zhu Wuxin for a while. However, when Yi Qingluo finally mobilized her profound jade heart and spread it over her entire body, relieving the suffocating feeling at her neck, just as she was about to counterattack, he suddenly felt a dull pain in his heart. Her vision went white. A blurry image suddenly leaped into his mind. That was the 10-year-old little Qingluo. After a round of beatings by Yi Qingling and Yi Qingqing, she was sick and weak, nesting in the abandoned courtyard full of cobwebs. It was already the middle of winter. Little Qingluo was only wearing a thin robe, and it was extremely worn out, stained with fresh blood. In the room, there was only a wooden bed and a piece of worn-out, smelly thin blanket. She sprawled on the bed, and every breath she took would affect the wounds on her body, making her so painful that she couldn't help but draw in a breath of cold air. The cold wind blew in from the broken door and window. Chapter 1500. Her wound was getting more and more painful under the cold wind. Due to hunger, his stomach was growling. Xiao Qingluo thought that she would have to look for her mother tonight. Just as she was thinking about it, suddenly Xiao Qingluo heard a heavy object landing on the ground, as though something had rolled in. Xiao Qingluo got a shock. No, don't hit me, don't. She thought it was Yi Qingqian and the rest who came to look for her again. Xiao Qingluo curled up and shivered. However, after a long while, the room was quiet, and no one responded. In the howling cold wind, Xiao Qingluo heard an obvious, breathing sound that was not in sync with her own. That sound was getting heavier and heavier. Xiao Qingluo clutched the smelly quilt in fear. Little Ziling went to look for something to eat for her. She was the only one in the entire abandoned courtyard. Who could it be that came to her abandoned courtyard? After a moment of silence, Xiao Qingluo didn't hear any footsteps. Only that heavy breathing sound could be heard. Who is it? She opened her mouth carefully with a trembling voice. No one answered her. And that heavy breathing sound gradually became gentle. Xiao Qingluo tightened the quilt and endured the pain on her body as she looked towards the direction of the sound. Her abandoned courtyard didn't have any supply of candles. Once night fell, the entire room would be pitch black. Xiao Qingluo had long been used to this kind of environment. Therefore, she only took a quick glance. She saw a blurry shadow below the window. From the silhouette of the shadow, it should be a person. Why would someone appear in her courtyard? Xiaoqing Luo was filled with fear and doubts. But as a 10-year-old child, no matter how afraid she was, she couldn't resist her curiosity. Moreover, a person appeared in her room. She couldn't be indifferent. Taking a deep breath, Xiaoqing Luo wrapped the quilt and slid down from the bed. The wounds on her body were rubbed by the rough quilt, causing more pain. There was a smell of blood in the air. Extremely thick. Xiaoqing Luo's body was covered with this smell of blood, but she could still feel the thicker smell of blood permeating her room. She endured the pain and walked towards the direction of the shadow. Just as she reached the window and was about to ask who the shadow was, suddenly, a cold glint flashed across his eyes. Her small body was pulled by someone and fell into the arms of a thin and weak man. A long sword was placed on her neck. Xiaoqing Luo had never seen such a battle before. Usually, when her sister and the servants bullied her, they never used weapons like swords or knives. Xiaoqing Luo froze, not daring to move recklessly. "Child." A hoarse voice sounded beside his ear, bringing with it a trace of coldness. As he spoke, he panted heavily. Xiaoqing Luo smelled that pungent blood stench from his body. "You're injured." Xiaoqing Luo's nose twitched. "Even more serious than my injury." The sword that was pressed against her neck loosened. Xiaoqing Luo pursed her lips as her voice was soft and soft. "Were you also bullied by brother and sister, so you hid in my courtyard? Don't be afraid, I won't hurt you." The black shadow was silent for a long time. Suddenly he put down the long sword. "Don't move, the smell of blood on your body is very, very heavy. Let me get up. If I press on you, I will bleed even more." Xiaoqing Luo only felt that this person who was worse off than her was even more pitiful than her. Little her immediately had a protective instinct. Chapter 1501. The black shadow obeyed and released her. Little Qing Luo carefully climbed up. The pain from the wound made her mouth continuously let out hissing sounds of pain. Just as she stood up, she didn't have time to speak. She heard a burst of light outside the courtyard. A lot of shadows of torches appeared outside the door. The light from the fire shone through the open window. Little Qing Luo saw the person sitting next to her, covered in blood. That was it could be called a stunning face. The young Qing Luo couldn't think of any adjectives to describe it. But she knew that this face was the most beautiful face she had ever seen. It was even better looking than her brothers and sisters. It was just that the expression on this beautiful face was very scary. When they looked at him, it was as if they were frozen by ice. "Go in and search. Find the assassin for me." A familiar yet strange voice came from outside the courtyard. Little Qing Luo was startled and murmured in surprise and joy, "Father is here." But immediately after, she heard her father's voice, which was obviously full of anger. And that very good-looking person once again used his sword and pressed it against her neck. "That person is your father?" The cold voice was fierce and full of killing intent. Little Qing Luo shivered and made a strong N sound. The young boy's eyes slightly sunk as he stared at little Qing Luo for a long time. Looking at this little girl living in the abandoned courtyard, her clothes were messy and shabby, her body full of injuries, it was obvious that she wasn't favored in the Yi family. Even if he used her to threaten Yi Tianquang, it would be useless. "Little brother, is father going to catch you?" Little Qing Luo heard the sound of rummaging outside and Yi Tianquang's unceasing furious roars. The young boy's cold eyes were cold as he stared at little Qing Luo's innocent face. His sharp eyes seemed to be thinking whether to kill this little girl or not. The next moment, the little girl stretched out her hand and hugged his arm tightly. "Little brother, hide here, father definitely won't be able to find you." When she used force, the flesh wounds on her body made her grimace in pain. The young boy also noticed those wounds on her body. It was clearly so painful that tears were about to fly out, but she still insisted on supporting him to hide from Yi Tianquang. For some unknown reason, those tearful eyes softened a certain part of the youth's heart. Subconsciously, he propped himself up and followed Xiaoqing Luo towards her direction. She hid him under the plank bed. The house was filled with all kinds of broken wood and straw. No one noticed the young boy hiding inside. The voices outside the courtyard were getting closer and closer. The light from the torch was getting brighter and brighter. Xiaoqing Luo saw the obvious pool of blood under the window. She turned her head and looked at the young boy under the bed. Her clear and beautiful eyes revealed a trace of determination. She bent down and picked up the sword in the boy's hand. "What are you going to do?" The young man's eyes narrowed as he asked vigilantly. But before he could say anything, he heard Xiaoqing Luo moaning in pain. She used the long sword and cut her wrist. Immediately, he stuffed the long sword under the bed. His small body was wrapped in the smelly blanket, and he shrunk back to where the young boy had been sitting. Blood oozed out from Xiaoqing Luo's wrist. It fused with the bloodstains on the ground. She leaned against the window, her little face contorted in pain. In the bottom of the young boy's heart, he didn't know what kind of shock he had. This little girl. Was she an idiot? She actually wanted to kill him, a complete stranger, just to save him. Chapter 1502. He looked at the little girl who was curled up on the ground with a face full of pain. At this moment, Zhu Wu Xian's heart, which had been sealed away for a long time, was finally filled. He actually felt a trace of warmth. The cold wind rustled, and the wounds on his body ached. But he felt extremely warm. This was the first person in his life who was willing to do anything for him. Bang! With a loud bang, the dilapidated door was violently flung open. The door fell to the ground, sending up a cloud of dust. The howling cold wind blew the dried branches and straws in the house all over the floor. Cough, cough, cough. Yi Tianquang choked and violently coughed a few times. The howling cold wind could not blow away the thick smell of blood in the room. Yi Tianquang's expression immediately became grave. "It's in this room. Search." Then, a group of guards and manservants holding torches swarmed into the house. Father! Suddenly, a weak and tiny voice entered everyone's ears. Under the illumination of the fire, they saw Xiaoqing Luo wrapped in a thin blanket, trembling all over. Beneath her was a pool of blood. "What's wrong with you?" When Yi Tianquang saw the scarred Qing Luo, there wasn't a trace of fatherly love in his eyes. On the contrary, he frowned with extreme disgust. He waved his hand, signaling for the guards and servants to leave. "In any case, you're the young matriarch of the Three Springs sect. If people see you in this state, wouldn't they laugh at our Three Springs sect's incompetence?" Yi Tianquang walked forward in annoyance. He directly extended his hand and pulled little Qing Luo up from the ground. The thin quilt was stinky and tainted with the smell of blood. This caused Yi Tianquang's brows to wrinkle even tighter, and he directly flung away that piece of quilt. Little Qing Luo's frail body was revealed. She was injured all over, and the blood on her wrist was still gushing out. His entire body was freezing cold, and his wounds, big and small, were already festering. Yi Tianquang threw Xiaoqing Luo to the ground in disgust. "This room apart from you, has anyone else entered?" No. Xiaoqing Luo curled up on the ground in pain, her eyes filled with tears. She ached all over. But he didn't dare to shout half a sentence in front of Yi Tianquang, because she knew that her father hated her very much. Her sisters bullied her. If she complained to her father, the one who would be punished would be her. Useless thing. Yi Tianquang lightly snorted. After that, his gaze swept through the entire room, and after confirming that there were no other auras, he turned around and walked out of the room. In Yi Tianquang's heart, this useless, cowardly, and incompetent daughter absolutely didn't have the guts to lie to him. The noise outside the courtyard gradually subsided. Xiaoqing Luo then tried her best to shift her body as she asked softly, "Are you all right?" There was no response from under the bed. Xiaoqing Luo started to panic. Could it be that the action of pushing you to the bottom of the bed caused your wound to open up? "Little brother, wait for me, I'll go over now." Saying that, Xiaoqing Luo couldn't be bothered about her injuries as she tried her best to stand up and walk towards the direction of the little wooden bed. She walked unsteadily. With every step he took, his entire body ached. She couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. After taking a few steps, a cold voice came from under the bed. "Enough, I'm fine. Don't come any closer." His voice was somewhat hoarse, and he coughed a few times from time to time. Hearing the little youth's voice, Xiaoqing Luo finally let out a sigh of relief. "Little brother, it's good that you're all right." As she spoke, she still tried her best to move towards the bottom of the bed. Chapter 1503. The young boy's aura suddenly froze. A murderous aura burst out from his body. One hand held the long sword at the side. "Little brother, don't be afraid. This is the footsteps of my servant girl." As soon as he finished speaking, he saw a small figure limping over from the door. When he saw the door that had fallen to the ground, a trace of astonishment appeared on his pale and thin face. "Mist, are you okay?" Little Ziling rushed to Qing Luo's side, and her eyes turned red when she saw Qing Luo covered in blood. "I'm fine." Qing Luo shook her head and touched little Ziling's head. "Ling, help me lift the little brother out from under the bed. He's seriously injured." "Little brother?" Little Ziling was puzzled. When she saw the strange young boy under the bed, Ziling exclaimed in surprise. Before she could speak, Qing Luo covered her mouth tightly. Don't shout. Father just brought people to chase little brother." "Miss, what are you doing? The master is chasing him. How can you?" Little Ziling looked at the young boy under the bed, and immediately persuaded her, "Mississippi miss, if we hand him over now, the master will definitely find someone to look at your injuries." "No." Qing Luo shook her head stubbornly, and the expression on her face became serious. "I promised to help little brother, so I must help him." Knowing that she couldn't win against her miss, little Ziling had to help Qing Luo and lifted the young boy out from under the bed. After a long while, the two little girls helped the young boy to lie down on the bed. Qing Luo grabbed the thin quilt on the ground and covered the young boy. Seeing the young boy's frown, she lowered her eyes in embarrassment. "Little brother, I'm sorry. I only have this quilt. The weather is cold and we don't have a door. Please make do with it." The young boy's frown deepened. When he saw the disappointment and guilt in Qing Luo's eyes, something seemed to tremble in his heart. Almost subconsciously he blurted out, "What about you?" Qing Luo was startled and immediately raised a big smile. "I'm not cold, it's okay." The cold wind was bleak and Qing Luo was also covered with wounds. The thin robe on his body could not withstand the cold at all. He was clearly shivering from the cold, and even his voice was trembling. However, she still covered him with the only blanket that could keep him warm. This little girl was really silly. The young boy stared at that smiling face without blinking. He was used to fighting openly and covertly, as well as conspiracies and plots. Little Qing Luo's innocence easily touched a certain part of the young man's heart. "You come up to the bed too," the young boy said calmly. Xiao Qing Luo's eyes widened as she shook her head vigorously. "The adults all say that there are differences between males and females. If we sleep on the same bed, we will get married in the future. You're still a child. When you grow up, you won't be able to sleep on the same bed with a man," the young boy said with rare patience. Xiao Qing Luo hesitated for a moment. Perhaps it was because it was too cold. She crawled onto the bed timidly. "Miss, this is the steamed bun we just got from 8th young master. You haven't eaten all day. Eat something before you sleep." Little Ziling limped to the bedside and carefully took out the steamed bun from her arms. The steamed bun was already cold and a little hard, but to Qing Luo it was already very good food. Chapter 1504. Little brother, are you hungry? Little Qing Luo took the steamed bun, but didn't eat it immediately. Instead, she leaned over to the young boy and asked softly. The young boy glanced at the cold hard steamed bun and frowned. "Do you eat this every day?" If he didn't hear it wrong, didn't Yi Tian Kuang just say that this girl was the young matriarch of Three Springs sect? A dignified young matriarch living in such a place and eating this kind of steamed bun? Little Qing Luo blinked her watery eyes and pinched a small piece of the cold hard steamed bun, and sent it to the young boy's mouth. "Not every day. These are secretly left for me by little you. Sometimes I can't even eat them." The steamed bun was stained with blood from little Qing Luo's fingers. He frowned and wanted to turn his head away. But when he saw that pair of pure beautiful eyes, his mouth opened subconsciously. The steamed bun mixed with little Qing Luo's blood entered his mouth. Seeing him eat it, little Qing Luo's face showed a big smile. Until half of the steamed bun was eaten, the young boy came back to his senses and looked away. "I'm not eating anymore." Little Qing Luo didn't force him. She threw the steamed bun that had brushed past the young boy's mouth into her own mouth without any hesitation. It was just a very ordinary action. But the young boy's heart inexplicably accelerated. This feeling made him extremely helpless. This was just a 10-year-old girl. He would actually feel shy? The young boy's heart was complicated. Little Qing Luo didn't notice. She divided the remaining half of the steamed bun into half and handed it to little Ziling. You must be hungry. Let's eat together. She kept staring at her miss as she gave the steamed bun to a stranger she didn't know. Ziling's heart was actually against it. But looking at her miss feeding him so happily, little Ziling suppressed the displeasure in her heart. Her young miss was too kind. That was why she suffered all kinds of bullying in the Yi family. Looking at the half-steamed bun that little Qing Luo handed over, little Ziling endured the hunger in her stomach and shook her head. Miss, I'm not hungry. You should eat quickly. Just eat when I tell you to. Every time you say you're not hungry, your stomach is obviously growling. Little Qing Luo couldn't help but put the steamed bun into little Ziling's hand. Then, he wolfed down the rest of the steamed bun. Little Ziling retreated to another corner of the room, where she slept. The thin quilt was too small, and it could only accommodate 2 of them at most. Little Qing Luo also couldn't call little Ziling to the bed, so her little body curled up beside the young boy. Gradually, Xiao Qing Luo leaned on the young man and fell into a deep sleep. In the night, the young boy's tightly shut eyes opened. He glanced sideways at the beautiful girl nestled in his arms. No matter how cold the wind was, it blew. His heart did not feel the slightest bit of coldness. On the contrary, it was a scorching heat that burned in his heart. An indescribable and unfamiliar feeling gradually sprouted from the bottom of his heart. The next day, Yi Tianquang sent an old doctor to treat little Qing Luo's injuries. The old doctor often came to treat little Qing Luo's injuries. He didn't have much respect for this unfavored young matriarch. After he came, he didn't even check his pulse. He threw a few bags of medicinal herbs at the entrance of the courtyard and left. Anyway, this unfavored young sect master had only suffered superficial injuries from the other few young ladies. Chapter 1505. Little Ziling picked up a few packets of medicine at the door and cursed the old doctor in a low voice. But she still picked up the medicine packets like they were treasures and brought them back to the room. Little Qing Luo used cold water to clean the wounds on her body. At this moment, she was cleaning the young boy's wounds. Seeing those packets of medicine, she quickly ordered little Ziling to boil the medicine. Little brother, there's medicine. Your injuries can definitely be cured. Little Qing Luo carefully wiped the knife and arrow wounds on the young boy's body. Medicine. The young boy frowned and looked at the big and small packets of medicine. Little brother, don't worry, those medicines are definitely for treating external injuries. I often use them, and after using them, the injuries on my body are already healed. Little Qing Luo hurriedly explained. Little brother, these injuries on your body should also be caused by being beaten by others. They can definitely be cured. The young boy recalled the way Yi Tianquang looked at little Qing Luo last night. It was not like the way he looked at his daughter. Moreover, he obviously knew that his daughter was often bullied. Yi Tianquang did not stop him. Instead, he sent over medicinal ingredients. When little Ziling brought over the medicine in a broken bowl, the young boy sniffed it. This was indeed medicine for treating external and internal injuries. And the medicine applied on his body was also used to heal wounds. He hadn't done anything to it. Looking at little Qing Luo, who was squatting beside him with shining eyes and carefully holding the medicinal soup, in the end he did not refuse little Qing Luo's good intentions. He needed to recover his body as soon as possible. Although these medicines did not have much effect, but at least they could speed up the recovery of his body. Otherwise, once Yi Tianquang found traces of him, he would not have the strength to resist. Moreover, if he continued to stay in this shabby place, he would not freeze to death. He was afraid that his wounds would be infected and fester to death. More importantly, after he recovered, he could quickly heal little Qing Luo's injuries. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The young boy's physique was special. In addition, all the medicinal herbs were used on his body. The young boy's body had already recovered by 70 to 80%. He could leave at any time. But every time he opened his eyes and saw the girl nestled in his arms, he actually gave birth to a feeling of reluctance to leave. Didn't want to leave the little girl who brought him happiness. Don't want to lose the smile on her face. In his mind, it was like a demonic barrier, as Xiaoqing Luo's voice and her clear smile kept reverberating. Little big brother, today's steamed buns are not hard. Have a taste. Little big brother, your wounds are recovering really fast, much faster than mine. Little big brother, you are so beautiful. My big sister and third sister are not even half as beautiful as you. Little big brother. She called out to him again and again. For the first time in his life, the young boy felt extremely needed. As a result, he continued to pretend to be heavily injured, forgetting about his mission and the purpose of his appearance at the Three Springs sect. Only staying by Xiaoqing Luo's side, watching her take care of herself, listening to her words in his ear, he did not stop. All of a sudden he wanted time to stop at this moment forever. After the third day, little Qing Luo would discover the wooden door of the dilapidated house was inexplicably repaired. Furthermore, it was fixed so securely that not even the slightest bit of cold wind could enter. The small wooden bed was also padded with a thick blanket and replaced with a wide, extremely warm quilt. Even the place where little Ziling slept was built with a wooden bed. After that, they could eat hot meals every day, and there were bags of food that could be stored for a few months under the bed. Chapter 1506. What made Xiaoqing Luo most astonished was, every morning when I wake up, the wounds on her body gradually healed. The suppurated area had scabbed over. The scars also gradually faded away. She was full of doubts, but she knew that all of this must have been done by the young boy who was gradually able to get out of bed, and would occasionally practice his sword in the abandoned courtyard. But she didn't dare to ask. He was afraid that the moment he opened his mouth, everything would become a dream. This dream had been going on for nearly half a month. She did not want to wake up from this dream. Yiqing Luo. In the courtyard, the young man's icy cold voice was heard, interrupting Xiaoqing Luo's deep thoughts. Hearing his voice, Xiaoqing Luo immediately raised her head, smiling like a flower as she jogged forward. Little brother. He opened his arms and embraced the little girl. They had only known each other for half a month. However, the atmosphere between the two of them seemed to have experienced several years of feelings. The young boy could feel it clearly. The little girl in his arms occupied an extremely important position in his heart. But he had his own mission. Before the mission was completed, before he had enough power to protect this girl, he could not drag her into his world. Yiqing Luo, I'm leaving. His voice was very calm. He gently hugged the little girl's hand, but he increased his strength. Xiaoqing Luo was stunned. She knew that her little brother would eventually leave. He just didn't expect everything to happen so quickly. This was the first time that other than Ziling and Xiaoyu, he was the person who treated her the best. Wait for me here. The young man lowered his head as his cold eyes locked onto Xiaoqing Luo. Wait for me to pick you up. Xiaoqing Luo buried her head in his arms and shook her head. Her small hands circled his waist tightly. She was afraid that she wouldn't be able to see her little brother again. She did not know how much longer she could live in the Three Springs sect. He seemed to have seen through the worries in her heart. The young boy gently stroked her head. Yi Tian Kuang won't let you die. I will return as soon as possible. Rather than bringing little Qing Luo away now, it would be better to let her stay in the Three Springs sect. He had investigated the Three Springs sect. Although Yi Tian Kuang loathed Xiaoqing Luo to the extreme, but he would absolutely not let Xiaoqing Luo's life be in any danger. And following him, he was unable to guarantee that he could protect Qing Luo anytime and anywhere. If they were not careful, what awaited them? It was death. That night, the young boy still left. Before he left, he carried Xiaoqing Luo as he whispered into her ear word by word. Remember my name, I'm Zhu Wu Xian. Zhu Wu Xian. Xiaoqing Luo repeated his name word by word. His warm kiss landed on Xiaoqing Luo's forehead. When I return, I will marry you. Are you willing to be my bride? At this moment, Zhu Wu Xian had to admit it. He was moved by this 10-year-old girl. her clarity, her beauty. It completely dispelled the darkness in his heart, captured everything in him. Xiao Qingluo raised her head, looked at him and nodded her head vigorously. I'm willing. Memories flashed in his mind. All the images stopped at the last scene. Her smile was like a flower, and her eyes were firm as she said, I do. Then it was this body, Xiao Qingluo's memory. It was a memory that had been sealed in the depths of this body's heart for some reason. Under Zhu Wuxin's relentless attacks, this memory was released in the end. As expected, it was the relationship between the Yi Qingluo before she transmigrated, the owner of this body, and Zhu Wuxian. So deep. Hard-working. Chapter 1507. However, how should she tell Zhu Wuxin? The soul of the person he had been searching for was no longer in this world? Zhu Wuxian's gaze was fixed on Yi Qingluo. Yi Qingluo was in a trance as her gaze kept changing. Then he saw a flash of pain in her eyes. His ice-cold eyes suddenly shot out a ray of light. You remember? Just now, when Yi Qingluo was in a trance, that instant gaze. All of a sudden, he felt as if his heart had been violently touched. He would never forget that look. The former Qingluo had used this kind of gaze to capture his heart, touching the softness in the depths of his heart. The hand which was locked on Yi Qingluo's neck slowly loosened. His cold eyes were gradually tainted with a sliver of infatuation. Both his hands suddenly hugged Yi Qingluo's shoulders tightly. Yi Qingluo, I've said this before, you're the person I'm looking for. You finally remembered. For the promise he had made with Yi Qingluo previously. In the past few years he had been working hard to become stronger, and had used all kinds of methods to expand his faction. For Yi Qingluo, he had even thrown his original intention of becoming stronger to the back of his mind. He couldn't bear for Yi Qingluo to stay in Three Springs sect and suffer. Every time he recalled the first time he met Yi Qingluo, she was covered in injuries. Zhu Wuxian's heart was filled with pain. But all these years, he didn't dare to head over to the Three Springs sect or secretly inquire about Yi Qingluo's news. Everything about him. They were all in the line of sight of others. If he wanted Yi Qingluo to live on safely, he must completely isolate himself from Yi Qingluo. Until he finally took control of Death God Castle. Then he finally built his own force. Until he met Yi Qingluo once again. Just when he wasn't 100% sure that he could bring Yi Qingluo to his side. Meeting Yi Qingluo. This Yi Qingluo who would have stayed in the Three Springs sect to be bullied. He appeared in his world. That was the freshman training ground of the Heavenly Academy. His reunion with her. He was filled with excitement. Unable to restrain his gaze, he fixed it on her. After 5 years, she was completely different from the person in his memories. The way she looked at him was also extremely strange. This made Zhu Wuxin panic. He wanted to ascertain if this Yi Qingluo was really the Yi Qingluo who called him little brother. He purposely sent someone to deliver medicine to her. He intentionally told his name to Yi Qingluo. However, she was still completely unperturbed. It was as if he could not recall who this so-called young master Zhu was. After that, the entire Three Springs city was filled with astonishing rumors regarding the seventh miss of the Yi family, Yi Qingluo. Her transformation surprised everyone. She was no longer the cowardly and humiliated seventh young mistress. But that, he possessed swift and fierce skills, an awe-inspiring aura, and was able to kill his sister in an instant. He was above everyone else, the queen. That's right, the queen. The rumored Yi Qingluo, in other people's eyes, was like a queen that no one could blaspheme. Following that, he heard the conversation between Yi Qingluo and the Overlord. That ambiguous and inseparable relationship. The next time they met was in the Death God Castle. She had brought her students to do a mission. In the end, he couldn't control himself and took the initiative to acknowledge her. But she had really forgotten who he was. Her eyes were no longer as pure and sweet as when they first met. Chapter 1508. Probing time and time again. Trying to make her recall his name time and time again. But what she got in return was disappointment time and time again. Yi Qingluo couldn't remember herself. She didn't lose her memories, but in her memories, There was no existence of him at all. She remembered everything. She only forgot about him. Hearing Zhu Wu Xian's voice, which was filled with shock in that tone, the arms which were hugging her tightly became tighter and tighter. Yi Qingluo was unable to harden her heart to struggle out of his embrace. The person Zhu Wu Xian was looking for was her, but also not her. After all, she had let him down. Yi Qingluo and Zhu Wu Xian's past relationship. The man who was hugging her was breathing heavily and hurriedly, as he kept muttering her name. The current Zhu Wu Xian. Where was the usual cold, heartless and aloof look? Love was enough to change heaven and earth. Even the heartless Zhu Wu Xian would also reveal such an expression. Like Dmo Xian, noble and elegant in front of outsiders, unattainable. But in front of her, he was just a barbaric and overbearing man. Thinking of Dmo Xian, Yi Qingluo's eyelashes fluttered slightly as she pulled herself back from the guilt towards Zhu Wu Xian. I have indeed recalled. She gently nudged Zhu Wu Xian. Hearing her admission, the joy on Zhu Wu Xian's face grew even thicker. He then let go of Yi Qingluo as his hands rested on her shoulders. I know, you will not forget me, and will not forget the agreement between us. This was the first lady who moved his heart, and the last lady who made him want to protect his entire life. Yi Qingluo, it's been 5 years. I'm back. After we leave the blazing flame nest, let's get married, alright? Zhu Wu Xian's eyes didn't contain any coldness, but it was filled with hope as he looked at her expression, extremely anxiously waiting for Yi Qingluo's answer. That careful and extremely apprehensive look. It made Yi Qingluo's heart ache faintly. She clenched her fists tightly as she sighed once again. Don't worry this time, I will absolutely not abandon you. Zhu Wu Xian seemed to have thought of something as his eyes looked firmly at Yi Qingluo. I will accompany you every day. You can go wherever you want. Master Zhu. Yi Qingluo raised her hand and slapped away the hand which was on her shoulder. This form of address came out from Yi Qingluo's mouth. The excited Zhu Wuxin's smile gradually froze. His cold eyes were once again filled with coldness. This form of address clearly expressed Yi Qingluo's attitude. His hand slid down from Yi Qingluo's shoulder. His slender body took a few steps back. He staggered a little. He stabilized his footsteps and stared at Yi Qingluo's calm face. Neither of them opened their mouths to break the strange silence. After a while, Zhu Wuxin burst out laughing. That laughter was mixed with an extremely clear pain. Ha ha. Young Master Chu. When you think of me, you still call me young Master Zhu. He smiled, his cold eyes filled with pain. In the past, you always called me little big brother. But now you won't even call me by my name. He's smiling. Her expression was still calm. Only her eyes, which were as calm as still water, were fluttering incessantly, revealing her flustered emotions at this moment. Chapter 1509. It wasn't that she was cold-blooded and heartless. It wasn't that she didn't care about Zhu Wu Xian's feelings and forcefully rejected his feelings towards her. But feelings shouldn't be dragged around in the first place. If she gave Zhu Wu Xian hope, that was the real cruelty towards Zhu Wu Xian. Just one sentence and you want to erase everything that happened between us? Zhu Wu Xian gave a low laugh as his pair of cold eyes started to turn red. The veins on his handsome face started to pop out. He was restraining his own emotions, restraining his urge to kill someone. Then young Master Zhu. What do you want? Yi Qingluo asked calmly. Following that, she continued. I don't know why. The memory of you when I was 10 years old has been completely forgotten. But forget is forget. Perhaps this is the predestined ending between you and me. What do I want? Zhu Wu Xian suddenly raised his voice as he howled in a low voice. You're asking me what I want. Don't tell me you're not clear about what I want. Don't you understand? His arms once again locked onto Yi Qingluo's shoulders. It's easy for you to say it, forget it and forget it. Just one sentence, and you're trying to get rid of me who has been thinking about you for 5 years? Yi Qingluo had nothing to reply to his question. She wasn't the Yi Qingluo when she was 10 years old. They had also never personally experienced the beautiful memories that Zhu Wuxin had shared with them. She couldn't possibly recall the memories with Chu Wu Xian. So she abandoned Dmo Xian and chose Zhu Wu Xian instead. The person she liked was only Dmo Xian. You want to abide by the agreement 5 years ago, to marry me. She looked into his eyes as she calmly told him what he was thinking about. Yiqing Luo was so calm that even she herself found it scary. I'm not using a sentence of forget to get rid of you, but the relationship between us is only fixed at 5 years ago, on that night when you left. Yiqing Luo spoke seriously. Young Master Zhu, before I had that memory, the person I loved was Dmo Xian. Even though I've regained that memory, it won't change my love for Dmo Xian. For all eternity, I will only follow Dmo Xian. Do you understand what I mean? He understood. How could he possibly not understand? Generation after generation. It also foretold that every day and every moment in her future belonged to Dmo Xian. Even in her next life, she would still choose Dmo Xian. She was persuading him to give up on her. However, giving up was easier said than done. If he could give up so easily, then he wouldn't have been so stubborn for 5 years. I don't understand. Yiqing Luo, I don't understand. Zhu Wu Xian's voice was hoarse as he shook his head slowly. The pair of hands which locked onto Yiqing Luo's shoulders gradually increased their strength. Yiqing Luo frowned in pain. Staring at Chu Wuxin's expressionless face, he felt a chill in his heart. She tried to struggle, but Zhu Wuxin's hands clenched even tighter. His fingers felt like they were going to sink into her flesh. She frowned in pain. Just as she was about to break free from him, suddenly, he felt something tighten around his waist. A strong force gripped her waist and pulled her back. Her back bumped into a warm chest. A mellow voice which was like fine wine rang beside her ears, as cold as ice. It doesn't matter if you understand or not. Anyway, Lil Luo, is this Lord's woman you have no right to lay a finger on her. A strong and majestic aura exploded at this instance. Chapter 15:10. Xian. Yiqing Luo turned her head around in astonishment. Indeed, the man who was hugging her was Dmo Xian. Her brows were immediately filled with a smile as she stretched out her arms and hugged Dmo Xian's neck. Xian, where did you go? I've been looking for you for a long time. He hugged Yiqing Luo's waist tightly as he pressed her petite body against his chest without any gap. The boiling temperature, through her clothes, was still scorching her petite body. At the other side of the foundation ground. Dmo Xian explained concisely. Following that, he raised her hand and his slender long fingers brushed past the profound phoenix ring on her fingertip. Silly, the profound phoenix ring and profound dragon ring can sense each other's presence. Just follow the profound phoenix ring's sense, and you'll be able to find me? Saying that, half dotingly and half helplessly pinched her forehead. Yiqing Luo's face instantly surfaced a bashful look as she stared at him resentfully. You're the silly one. You didn't tell me that the profound phoenix ring and profound dragon ring can sense each other's presence. Yes. If I'm silly, then you're also a silly wife. Dmo Xian replied to Yiqing Luo's words dotingly. In return, Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes and pushed him away resentfully. Zhu Wu Xian, who was by the side. His icy cold gaze was fixed on the two of them who were fooling around. His eyes darkened bit by bit. That big and small hand, stacked together, the same patterned ring on their fingers. It pierced his eyes. By his ears, he could still hear their mutual understanding. Anyone could tell that these two were extremely in love with each other. What made his heart ache the most was. It was the moment when Yiqing Luo saw Dmo Xian. Her brows revealed a smile, as well as that deep longing. That was her true feelings showing. In her eyes, in her heart. She could only accommodate Dmo Xian alone. Zhu Wu Xian's fists were clenched tightly. His long body slowly retreated, leaning against the firewall behind him. His entire body's energy seemed to be sucked out at this instance. A loud dong sound was heard. The sound of a heavy object landing on the ground attracted their attention. Zhu Wu Xian. Yiqing Luo looked towards the direction of the voice. Zhu Wuxin leaned against the wall and sat on the ground. He spread his knees and rested his arms on his knees. His head was bowed, his inky hair falling over his face, hiding the expression on his face. His body exuded an unapproachable evil aura. She pushed Dmo Xian away, and was just about to approach Zhu Wu Xian to help him up. However, Zhu Wuxin shouted fiercely, "Don't come over!" Yiqing Luo's footsteps halted. "Yiqing Luo, since you want me to forget everything that had happened in the past, then don't come near me." Zhu Wu Xian's icy cold voice was devoid of any emotions. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips as her brows creased tightly. "Anyway, to you, I'm just a passerby, just an insignificant person." He let out a low chuckle that was filled with bitterness. "He's here to pick you up. Just go with him." As soon as he finished speaking, Zhu Wuxin only felt that his arm was covered by a touch of warmth. Soon after, the fragrance from the woman's body seeped into his nose. He was astonished as he raised his head. He saw a cold-looking Yiqing Luo frowning at him. "What rubbish are you saying? You've suffered such a serious injury, and you're still trying to be brave. Do you really think that your body is made of iron?" She didn't allow him to explain as she directly helped Zhu Wu Xian up. "You..." Chapter 15:11. There's one more sentence which you've said wrongly. Yiqing Luo looked at Zhu Wu Xian as her gaze was calm and her tone was firm. "To me, you're not just a passerby, and not unimportant." Zhu Wuxin's expressionless face seemed to change a little. Light flashed in his cold eyes. He looked at Yiqing Luo's eyes, and was unable to shift his gaze away momentarily. "That night 5 years ago, I was already mentally prepared to die. If it wasn't for your appearance, perhaps I might not be able to live till now. If at that time, Shaoqing Luo would have died in the cold winter, perhaps she wouldn't have the chance to come to this continent and become Yiqing Luo. So to me, you're my salvation 5 years ago." Yiqing Luo stared at his eyes as she said every single word. Salvation. Zhu Wu Xian silently muttered these 2 words in his heart. He was Yiqing Luo's salvation? 5 years ago, Yiqing Luo was his salvation. 5 years ago, I didn't abandon you who was seriously injured. 5 years later, I won't abandon you like this. Zhu Wu Xian had cross blows with Dmo Xian outside the base of the blazing flame nest. He suffered a blow from Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian's attack was no joke. Later on, he was forcefully absorbed into the base. How could Zhu Wu Xian's body take it? Yiqing Luo supported Zhu Wu Xian's body as it was a little strenuous. She looked at Dmo Xian. But she saw Dmo Xian's sharp gaze staring at her, and Zhu Wu Xian without blinking. That gaze seemed as though he wanted to strangle Zhu Wu Xian to death. Yiqing Luo didn't dare to let Dmo Xian support Zhu Wu Xian. "Chi-Chi," she called out. Chi-Chi, who was nestled on her shoulder, gave an unwilling "awoo." Following that, it leapt onto the fire ground. Its tiny body instantly turned into a huge white tiger. Yiqing Luo placed Zhu Wu Xian on Chi-Chi's back. "Let's go look for Ajan and the others first." Dmo Xian suddenly spoke out. "Chi-Chi, you lead the way." Chi-Chi shook its tiger head as it turned its head towards Dmo Xian. After meeting Dmo Xian's sinister gaze, Chi-Chi's fur immediately stood on end. It wagged its little tail and howled, decisively choosing to listen to its male owner. "What you mean is..." Yiqing Luo returned to Yiqing Luo's side, and held his arm as she asked. Letting 7 lead the way meant, right now they were going to search for the place where Chi-Chi sensed the summoning. Then look for Long Yunjian and the others? Yiqing Luo took a look at Zhu Wu Xian, who was on Chi-Chi's back, as she suppressed her voice. "You should have guessed what is it that summoned Chi-Chi. If he knew about it, I'm afraid." "Merely a cripple, unimportant." Dmo Xian's chilly peach blossom eyes swept past Zhu Wu Xian in disdain. The minute he recalled that Yiqing Luo and Zhu Wu Xian were so close to each other, his eyes were tainted with a gloomy shade. However, he still endured it. He was very clear about Yiqing Luo's character. For her to abandon Zhu Wu Xian and leave with him, Yiqing Luo would definitely not agree to it. The reason why he allowed his Lil Luo, or to take Zhu Wu Xian away, was because Lil Luo, or in Zhu Wu Xian's words, which pleased him. Especially now, Yiqing Luo's action of distrust towards Zhu Wu Xian had pleased him. Cough, cough, cough. Zhu Wu Xian, who was lying on Chi-Chi's back, felt a surge of anger when he heard that. His chest instantly felt stuffy as he coughed a few times. Yiqing Luo tugged Demo Xian's arm to stop him from opening his mouth. Chapter 15:12. Chi-Chi was unusually excited. That plump tiger claw stepped on the ground, extremely joyful. The blazing flame blended with that pure white tiger fur, like a huge tiger treading on fire. The terrain of this route vein was complicated. Every once in a while, there would be various twists and turns. After a few turns, two people and one tiger didn't know how long they had been walking for. The scenery in front of them started to change. Their field of vision gradually widened. It was indeed extremely wide. Looking at it, it was an endless stretch of land. It was a sky full of flames. The coquettish flames burned wantonly. The red magma kept rolling and boiling. There was no path for them to pass through. This lava was different from the flame path which they were stepping on. This was a sea of fire. The moment they got closer, they could feel the scorching heat, as though it was going to burn them into ashes. Yiqing Luo stood at the edge of this endless sea of fire. Her fingers moved slightly and a silver coin appeared in her palm. She threw the silver coin into the sea of fire. That silver coin had yet to land. Under the scorching heat of the sea of fire, it was burnt into nothingness. Yiqing Luo retracted her hand and exchanged glances with Dmo Xian. Xian, do you know what this place is? Dmo Xian looked at this sea of fire. His peach blossom eyes, under the reflection of the fire, shone with a seductive brilliance. After some time he opened his mouth. This should be the heart vein of the base of the fire nest. Heart vein? Yiqing Luo frowned in puzzlement. It's equivalent to a human's heart. Dmo Xian's gaze swept past Yiqing Luo's chest. That gaze made Yiqing Luo instinctively clutched her chest. Following that, her face blushed slightly as she looked away. Speak if you want. Why did that woman stare at her chest for no reason? Yiqing Luo restrained the wild thoughts in her mind, restraining herself from being overwhelmed by the male hormones that were released from Dmo Xian's body. Chi-Chi. Dmo Xian seemed as though he didn't notice the little awkwardness in Yiqing Luo's heart as he turned to look at Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi was staring straight at the sea of fire, not noticing Dmo Xian's words. Its ears were perked up, as if it was listening to something carefully. A pair of huge tiger eyes that were dyed red by flames looked extremely serious. Instantly, Yiqing Luo couldn't care less about her little awkwardness as she stared at Chi-Chi's tiger eyes. Chi-Chi, what did you hear? Chi-Chi heard it. The voice calling for Chi-Chi. When Chi-Chi heard her master's voice, she immediately turned her head excitedly. It's right in front. It's coming from the front. It didn't know why it was so excited. He only knew that when he heard the voice summoning him, this feeling arose in his heart. It wanted to find what was calling it. It wanted to clearly hear the voice that was summoning it, and what exactly was being said to it. Right in front, summoning Chi-Chi, right here in the heart vein? However, anyone who got close to this sea of fire would be burned to ashes. There was no way for them to cross. However, the doubts in Yiqing Luo's heart had yet to be digested. Chi-Chi swept her tail and rolled up Zhu Wuxin, who was on her back, and placed him on the ground. Then he moved his limbs. The huge tiger body charged towards that sea of fire. Chi-Chi. Yiqing Luo cried out in panic as she took quick steps forward. Chi-Chi, come back! Chapter 15:13. A drop of lava hit Yiqing Luo's trousers. Her trousers instantly melted into a hole. It even brought along a scorching heat. Yiqing Luo took a step back. Her eyes looked towards Chi-Chi's direction without blinking. Seeing Chi-Chi's entire body had completely submerged into the sea of fire. The enchanting flame instantly enveloped Chi-Chi completely. The boiling lava was also howling in anger. Yiqing Luo's pupils instantly enlarged. How could she care about the lava beneath her feet? As she raised her leg and chased after Chi-Chi, her wrist tightened and her body was forcefully pulled back. A pair of strong arms encircled her waist. Xian, let go of me. Yiqing Luo's face was pale as she struggled hard. I want to save Chi-Chi. If it rushes in, It will be burnt to death. Chi-Chi came to this world because of her. The second companion who had always been by her side. She had never treated Chi-Chi as a battle pet. Chi-Chi was her companion, her kin. She absolutely could not watch Chi-Chi get into trouble. Even if it was the sea of fire, even if it was the lava. She would not allow a tiger like Chi-Chi to rush in alone. Lil Luor, calm down. Dmo Xian held her shoulder with one hand, while the other hand covered her icy cold face. Even if it was this scorching heat, it was unable to warm Yiqing Luo's icy cold body. Dmo Xian's brows creased slightly as he hooked her head and stuffed her into his arms. Lil Luo. Chi-Chi is a sacred beast, it will not lose its sense of propriety. The struggling movements of the person in his arms gradually became smaller. He continued. You should be able to sense Chi-Chi's emotions. It is excited, isn't it? The gentle words beside her ear, like a warm spring, seeped into her heart. Soothed the anxiety and uneasiness in her heart. Right. She could sense Chi-Chi's emotions. When Chi-Chi sensed the summoning power and arrived at this place, she suddenly felt a chill run down her spine. It had always been extremely excited. Chi-Chi was one of the 4 sacred beasts, the white tiger sacred beast. It would not lose its sense of propriety. It would not let herself fall into danger. Yiqing Luo gradually calmed down. Indeed. Chi-Chi, who rushed into the sea of fire, did not sense any pain. The emotions that were transmitted from its body. It was an increasingly excited and surging mood. Chi-Chi, who was engulfed by the flames and magma, once again appeared in Yiqing Luo's vision. It raised its head high and let out a deafening tiger roar. That tiger roar was filled with joy. Its tiger claws kept slapping on the magma. His fat body was still rolling in the sea of fire. It was like a tiger bathing in the water. But this was all fire. Great sheets of flame. Huge clumps of lava. Chi-Chi was unscathed? She and Mu Chi-Chi did not run into the same sea of fire, right? Could Chi-Chi have fallen into a fake sea of fire? Clang. Clang. A few sharp voices suddenly rang out. It was extremely loud and clear. It was as if it had pierced through the sky. What is that sound? A look of astonishment flashed past Yiqing Luo's eyes as she looked around. The voice seemed to be coming from all directions. It was impossible to tell where the voice came from. Dmo Xian tightened his grip on her slender waist and said calmly, "The one you've been waiting for is here." She waited? Yiqing Luo was stunned. Looking at Dmo Xian's smile, which didn't look like a smile, his eyebrows raised. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up as a joyful smile appeared in her eyes. Chapter 15-14. In the vast sea of fire, magma surged. A huge shadow enveloped the entire sea of fire. Then, a dazzling light flashed above the sea of fire. As soon as the brilliant light appeared, Yiqing Luo felt that her vision was attracted by that brilliance. He couldn't shift his gaze away no matter what. Then it was a huge red bird. No, that's not a giant bird. That was one of the 4 sacred beasts, the vermilion bird. The phoenix feathers on her body were overflowing with light, as if they were plated with a layer of dazzling light. Scarlet red, like flames. However, it was even more eye-catching than the flames. From head to toe, there was a piercingly cold aura. Flight of the phoenix pair. Cry to the 9 heavens. Sure enough, it was it. All this while, the vermilion bird had been calling out to Chi-Chi. Ever since Chi-Chi stepped into the South Tide continent, she had sensed this summoning power. Yiqing Luo made a guess. It was very likely that it was one of the 4 great divine beasts. The reason for that was because there was an extremely strong sense of summoning between sacred beasts. The other magical beasts didn't sense it at all. Only Chi-Chi could feel it. Apart from the 4 sacred beasts, there was nothing else. Clang clang. The vermilion bird let loose another piercing cry. It flew down from the sky and tangled with Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi jumped around excitedly. A vermilion bird and a white tiger, loving each other. South Tide Continent's imperial tutor prophesied that a divine object would descend upon the world in the blazing flame lair. What he was referring to was this vermilion bird. Dmo Xian looked at that noble and elegant sacred beast as a trace of undecipherable profound meaning surfaced in his eyes. The vermilion bird. Why is it here? Yiqing Luo's attention was focused on the vermilion bird, and didn't notice Diemo Xian's strange behavior. I'm afraid it's also because of. Diemo Xian took a deep look at Yiqing Luo. His words stopped at his lips. For what? Yiqing Luo curiously raised her head and looked into that bottomless abyss eyes. Her heart strangely tightened. Diemo Xian's expression was absolutely not happy. On the contrary, there was an extremely subtle trace of anxiety and uneasiness. What is he worrying about? Was he hiding something? Not waiting for Yiqing Luo to ponder, that smear of emotion in Diemo Xian's eyes had already disappeared. His thin lips curved up, and his slender fingers gently stroked her face. He lowered his voice and said in a hoarse voice, "For the sake of the white tiger, I found this place." Chi-Chi? Yiqing Luo frowned. Why did she feel that? Diemo Xian was deliberately hiding something? Did the vermilion bird descend to the South Tide continent for Chi-Chi? The 4 great divine beasts were the strongest divine beasts of the ancient era. Diemo Xian rubbed her head as he explained. For sacred beasts have been living together since young and have already been together for over 10,000 years. If it wasn't for an accident 10,000 years ago, the 4 divine beasts wouldn't have been separated. It would appear that those 4 divine beasts are searching for one another. Yiqing Luo nodded thoughtfully. Then Xiaochen shifted his gaze to the Sea of Fire, where the 2 holy beasts were still entangled and crying at each other. The 4 beasts searched for one another. In other words, apart from the vermilion bird holy beast, even the azure dragon and black tortoise would come looking for him. Chapter 15:15. Indeed, if vermilion bird was here for Chi-Chi, it would definitely not be separated from Chi-Chi. And she was Chi-Chi's master. Chi-Chi would definitely follow her. If vermilion bird didn't want to be separated from Chi-Chi, it would definitely stay by her side. This was equivalent to forming a contract with vermilion bird. Just at this moment, Chi-Chi, who was in the Sea of Fire, seemed to recall that its master was still standing beside the Sea of Fire. It let out a low howl, and immediately jumped out of the Sea of Fire, and returned to Yiqing Luo's side. Master, it's really it. It's really vermilion bird. Chi-Chi's voice was extremely crisp. Looking at Chi-Chi's joyful eyes, Yiqing Luo's face revealed a smile as she raised her hand and gently stroked Chi-Chi's head. Congratulations, Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi's head rubbed against her palm. Clang clang. Vermilion bird suddenly flew over, and that arrogant head slowly moved closer to Yiqing Luo. Chi-Chi raised its head and let out a few excited howls. It seemed to be communicating with vermilion bird. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel it. Vermilion bird's red eyes swept past her faintly. That gaze. It really wasn't friendly. Yiqing Luo was a little surprised. She hadn't done anything to vermilion bird, right? It seemed to be the first time she met vermilion bird. Why did it feel like vermilion bird didn't seem to like her? Howl. Chi-Chi's voice became louder as it used its head to knock vermilion bird's body, as if it was saying something angrily. Vermilion bird let out a low cry and immediately went silent. A bird and a tiger looked at each other. The atmosphere seemed a little inexplicably strange. Cough cough. Yiqing Luo coughed lightly and interrupted the 2 sacred beasts who were originally intimate but now created a cold atmosphere. Chi-Chi, after all, we are old friends who haven't seen each other for a long time. Don't quarrel. Chi-Chi is not quarreling with it. Chi-Chi snorted. The huge tiger body immediately transformed into a palm-sized cat and jumped onto Yiqing Luo's shoulder. Chi-Chi is telling it that you are Chi-Chi's master. Yiqing Luo stroked its fur and raised her head to smile at vermilion bird. Vermilion bird arrogantly turned her head away. It spread its flame-like wings and let out a clear cry. The surrounding flames flared up even more violently in that instant. Chi-Chi's tail suddenly stood up straight. Diemo Xian tightened his grip on her slender waist. Yiqing Luo's smile froze. Her intuition was right. This vermilion bird really didn't like her. He seemed to have something to say to her. Hey, ugly woman. A clear voice rang out. It was extremely clear in the silence. Yiqing Luo's gaze was fixed on the vermilion bird. Was it talking just now? It can actually speak human language? This sacred beast is one of the 4 ancient sacred beasts. Naturally, I can speak the human language. Vermilion Bird proudly snorted. You don't even know this kind of common sense. Why did Little White choose you as his master? Question. How does it feel to be despised by a bird? A. Vermilion Bird, this is Chi-Chi's master. If you dare to offend Chi-Chi's master again, Chi-Chi will. Chi-Chi will ignore you. Chi-Chi glared at Vermilion Bird. Vermilion Bird turned its head in displeasure and stared at Yi-Ching Luo with its red eyes for a long time. That eyes were as red as fresh blood, red without any impurities. With just a glance, one would feel as if they had fallen into a pool of blood. Yi-Ching Luo frowned slightly and reached out to stroke Chi-Chi's head, indicating it not to be agitated. Chapter 15-16. Vermilion Bird turned its head and squinted its scarlet eyes. It looked at Yi-Ching Luo with a questioning gaze. After a while, a disdainful snort came out of its nose. Vermilion Bird, you. Chi-Chi was about to jump down from Yi-Ching Luo's shoulder to settle scores with Vermilion Bird. Its tiny body was hugged by Yi-Ching Luo's arms. Yi-Ching Luo patted its head gently and whispered, "Forget it, don't affect your relationship because of me." Her motive for coming here. Indeed, she wanted to subdue the sacred beast. But she didn't expect. Chi-Chi and Vermilion Bird were close friends since they were young. Since they were Chi-Chi's close friends. Her original plan of coercion and enticement couldn't be carried out. Chi-Chi's companions were also people she should treat well. Vermilion Bird didn't like her. Then she shouldn't force it. Yi-Ching Luo threw Chi-Chi to Vermilion Bird. The smile on her lips was still gentle. Chi-Chi, you and Vermilion Bird can catch up here. I will go look for Ajan with Xian. Chi-Chi let out a cry of guilt. Chi-Chi naturally understood its master's character. It also understood that its master had given up the plan to contract Vermilion Bird. To be honest, Chi-Chi also hoped that Vermilion Bird could contract with its master. In this way, it could be with its master and not be separated from Vermilion Bird. But obviously, Vermilion Bird didn't have a good impression of its master. However, it was clear that the Vermilion Bird did not have a good impression of its master. It couldn't even count how long it had been. So long that they couldn't even remember what their former master looked like. Vermilion Bird's hatred towards its master was probably because it felt that it had betrayed its former master. Sensing Chi-Chi's depressed mood, Yi-Ching Luo gave it a smile. Then she meditated in her heart. Chi-Chi, I'm not angry, don't think too much. Master. Chi-Chi called out in a low voice. Yi-Ching Luo looked up at Vermilion Bird. Vermilion Bird, my friend here is seriously injured, let's leave him here temporarily, okay? Master, don't worry. Chi-Chi will guard him well. Chi-Chi answered first, and then gave Vermilion Bird a fierce stare. Vermilion Bird didn't say a word, which was a silent agreement. Looking at the tsundere of Vermilion Bird, Yi-Ching Luo couldn't help but laugh. After arranging a place for Zhu Wuxin, he fed him some medicinal pills to treat internal injuries. Yi-Ching Luo and Dmo Xian then held hands as they left the heart vein. With Chi-Chi around, Yi-Ching Luo wasn't worried that Vermilion Bird would hurt Zhu Wuxian. Moreover, she could feel it. Although Vermilion Bird looked very arrogant on the surface, in reality, he was just a person with a sharp tongue but a soft heart. Otherwise, with Chi-Chi's silly and adorable personality, how could she be so close to the Vermilion Bird? Birds of a feather flocked together. Chi-Chi's best friend was definitely not some cold-hearted beast. Not far away from the heart vein, Dmo Xian glanced sideways at the silent Yi-Ching Luo as he laughed lightly. No regrets? Huh. Yi-Ching Luo was stunned for a moment before she reacted and shook her head. No. Dmo Xian raised his brows. That's one of the 4 great sacred beasts, the Vermilion Bird sacred beast. If you were to sign a contract with it, it would be of great help to you. I know. Yi-Ching Luo nodded her head as her hands circled around his arm, leaning her head on his arm. But as compared to help, I'm more concerned about Chi-Chi's feelings. So what if she used all kinds of means to make Vermilion Bird sign a contract with her? If because of this, it caused Chi-Chi and Vermilion Bird's relationship to become estranged. Chapter 15-17. You. Diamotian had a, I've long guessed it, expression as he shook his head with a doting smile. Xian, this place is so big and the roads are so complicated. How are we going to find Xiao Yi and the rest? Yiqing Luo asked worriedly, although they didn't sense any danger in the base of the blazing cavern. But Yiqing Luo had an ominous feeling. They didn't meet with any danger, probably because of Chi-Chi. Or maybe it was the calm before the storm. Diamotian said, this is the underground of the blazing cavern, and the area is about the same size. Although this place looks complicated and there are many roads, but it is connected in all directions. Just walk straight ahead and you should be able to meet them. Yiqing Luo nodded. This was the only way now. She was glad that she still had the mercenary group badge which could be used to sense the presence of Yan Xiao Yi and the rest. As long as the range was within 100 meters, they would be able to get in touch. But their comfortable time didn't last long. Just as the two of them were moving forward based on their intuition, suddenly, a deafening roar came from all directions. Following that, they saw two huge wild beasts. Their entire bodies were fiery red and their bodies were giving off sparks as they strode towards the two of them. Roar, roar, roar. The two wild beasts pounded on their chests as sparks flew. Diamotian protected Yiqing Luo behind him as his brows creased slightly as he waved his purple robe. A burst of profound chi surged towards the sky with an imposing manner as it struck the two wild beasts. Those two wild beasts hadn't even gotten close when they instantly turned into tiny sparks under this burst of profound chi as they fell onto the ground, merging into one with the flaming path. Instant kill. Yiqing Luo's eyes shone as her little hand grabbed onto Diamotian's arm. Xian, can you reveal how high your profound grade is? Previously, when Diamotian made a move against Imperial Palace's granny, Yiqing Luo already felt that Diamotian was unfathomable. Imperial Palace's granny's profound grade was at least Sky Mystic Overlord or even higher. But Diamotian could easily suppress the Imperial Palace's old granny to the point that she had no way to resist. It was enough to tell that Diamotian's profound grade was above Imperial Palace's granny. Then, how powerful was Diamotian exactly? Diamotian glanced sideways as a trace of teasing smile flashed past his eyes. Divulging a little isn't impossible, but what is Lil Luo prepared to use in exchange for this bit of divulging? That deliberately lowered and flirtatious voice. There was a hint of ambiguity in that teasing gaze. How could Yiqing Luo not understand Diamotian's unspoken meaning? Her cheeks were slightly flushed as she glared at Diamotian in annoyance, revealing the profound grade. You also want to discuss conditions with me. Can't we be happy together? Diamotian raised his eyebrows. I'm the first palace of Nirvana realm, the Imperial Palace Lord Diamotian. My profound grade is naturally confidential. If you want to know, how can I tell you if you don't show some sincerity? Yiqing Luo was exasperated. What he said made so much sense that she couldn't refute him. Yiqing Luo bit her lower lip as she stared at Diamotian resentfully. Following that, she tiptoed and hooked onto Diamotian's neck. She pressed her pink lips onto Diamotian's thin lips. She did it deliberately. The moment her lips touched Diamotian's thin lips, she opened her mouth and bit on his lips fiercely. Humph humph. She winked at Diamotian provocatively. Following that, she moved her lips away. But Diamotian didn't give her this chance. Just at the moment when Yiqing Luo retreated. Chapter 15-18. Diamotian's kiss was extremely overbearing. Their breaths entwined, lips and teeth intertwined. Just a moment later, Yiqing Luo's entire body turned soft as she leaned softly into Diamotian's arms. His lips caressed her lips. His tongue stirred a pool of spring water. Those warm and soft lips were intoxicating. Yiqing Luo's resentment towards Diamotian for taking advantage of the situation had turned into anger from embarrassment. And at this moment, it completely vanished. This kiss almost made Yi Qingluo suffocated before Dmo Xian released her. Yi Qingluo's mind was in a daze. Xian, don't be like this. Originally, he just wanted to take the opportunity to bite him. He didn't expect to be swallowed by him instead. Dmo Xian's brows were filled with mirth, as he licked his rosy lips as though he hadn't had enough of it, as he laughed in a low voice. What about me? You. Yi Qingluo's face turned red as she gritted her teeth and shut her mouth. When it came to acting like a hooligan, she was absolutely not Dmo Xian's opponent. She simply couldn't be bothered to talk to him anymore. She snorted. Hurry up and tell me, what's your profound rank now? Dmo Xian's brows raised slightly as he slowly bent down. His thin lips gently grazed her earlobe. It caused Yi Qingluo's delicate body to tremble slightly. Warm air sprayed out. Yi Qingluo couldn't bear it any longer. Are you going to say it or not? Was it really okay to flirt with him at the slightest disagreement? Her heart wouldn't be able to take it sooner or later. Lil Luo or my profound grade. His hoarse voice was extremely husky. That magnetic teasing made Yi Qingluo's heart had a kind of numbing feeling. Yi Qingluo felt he might have been poisoned by a poison called Dmo Xian, and she could not detoxify it. But this poison was instantly dispelled, because a certain man whispered in her ear, taller than you. Then he laughed and swaggered off. Oh. Yi Qingluo stood rooted to the ground with a dumbfounded look. His profound rank was higher than hers? This was Dmo Xian's answer? Yi Qingluo's mouth twitched a few times. Damn it. Dizun's tricks were too complicated. She strongly requested to get rid of Dizun. Wasn't it obvious? Could her profound grade surpass Dmo Xian? Damn Dmo Xian, how dare he tease her? Do you still want to live happily? Yi Qingluo expressed that she would make Dmo Xian kneel at the door every day and not allow him to get on the bed. Roar, roar, roar. Just as Yi Qingluo was preparing to activate her cold force, suddenly the entire space reverberated with that horrifying howl of a wild beast. Then on the walls of fire that covered the entire sky, there were many people. One by one, burning wild beasts emerged from the ground. Dmo Xian, who was walking in front, immediately returned to Yi Qingluo's side as he stretched out his hand to encircle her in his embrace. Xian, what is this? Yi Qingluo stared at the surroundings. There were at least 10 over wild beasts, approaching them step by step. Her brows furrowed into a frown. This is a flame beast. Dmo Xian's expression was calm as he looked at the wild beasts surrounding them as he explained. These are the guardian spiritual beasts of the blazing flame nest. They kill those intruders who trespass into the base of the blazing flame nest. As he spoke, the flaming beast was already charging towards him. A flaming sword emerged from the flaming beast's body. Yi Qingluo felt a huge breath coming towards her. Dmo Xian hugged her even tighter as he waved his sleeves. A horrifying profound light was released from his body. But in a flash, those few flaming beasts which had rushed towards them were defeated and turned into ashes. Chapter 15:19. The flame beasts are formed from the flames at the base of the flame lair. As long as the flames are not extinguished, the flame beasts will continue to spawn. Dmo Xian's gaze was grave as he looked at those flame beasts pouncing over. Let's rush over first before we talk. As long as the fire is not extinguished, it will continue to grow? In other words, if the flames in the foundation were not extinguished, would the flaming beasts continue to emerge and attack them? If this went on, no matter how strong Dmo Xian was, the profound energy of the profound jade heart would eventually be exhausted. Along the way, we haven't met any flame beasts. Why did these flame beasts suddenly appear? Yi Qingluo looked at Dmo Xian in puzzlement. Dmo Xian shook his head slowly. His expression was calm. However, his peach blossom eyes were filled with seriousness. The flame beast's sudden attack was indeed a little sudden. Xian, let's go first, there are more and more flame beasts. Yi Qingluo also felt strange. But now was not the time to think about other things. The surrounding flaming beasts came one after another. There were more than 20 of them. If they didn't leave now, even if the flaming beasts didn't attack them, they would be burned to death by the flames on their bodies. Yiqing Luo flipped her palm, and the glower flame fan appeared on her fingertips. Dmo Xian took a look at her but did not stop her actions. Follow me closely. Amen. Yiqing Luo gave him a smile. In times of danger, she could not always rely on Dmo Xian. She had said it before, she didn't want to hide behind Dmo Xian. What she wanted was to be on par with Dmo Xian. The two of them looked at each other. At the same time his figure swayed. He charged into the flaming beasts. The glower flame fan in Yiqing Luo's hand opened up, the profound qi condensed, turned into a bewitching red glow, rolled up a wind blade, and directly chopped towards the flame beast. The flame beast's skills were all related to fire. Furthermore, it was extremely cumbersome. When Yiqing Luo's wind blades landed on the flame beast's body, that flame beast didn't have any intention to evade as it continued to move forward. It raised its arm high and smashed it down towards Yiqing Luo's head. As he waved his arm, the flames on the flaming beast's arm became like a flaming sword. Roar! The flaming beast's enormous body moved on the ground, causing the earth to shake. The flaming beast was about to reach his face. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards. Her charming eyes were dyed with an enchanting red glow under the illumination of the flame. It further complemented her peerlessly beautiful face, which was charming and enchanting. She spun the devouring flame fan in her palm, and soon after, the devouring flame fan transformed into a red tornado that flew towards the flaming beast. The devouring flame fan was like a spiral. As it spun, a dazzling light flowed through it. The red light was even more dazzling under the light of the flames. The glowing flame fan brushed past the flaming beast's body. Following that, it spun in midair and returned back to Yiqing Luo's hand. Following that, Yiqing Luo's 5 fingers nimbly flicked. A few silver threads shot out from the glowing flame fan. That flaming beast, which was still attacking Yiqing Luo, suddenly split into pieces at this instance. Wherever the silver threads passed, a row of flaming beasts would be torn to pieces. Seeing Yiqing Luo fighting so excitedly, Dmo Xian did not attack again. Just following behind her, staring at Yiqing Luo's actions, constantly paying attention to whether she would get hurt. The two of them, one at the front and one at the back, charged forward. Very soon, they met Long Yunjian and the rest who were also killing the flaming beasts. Gui Wu and Zhou Mo were by the side. Sister. Kitty Li was the first to smell Yiqing Luo's scent, as she joyfully struggled out from Zhou Mo's arms. Chapter 15:20. Long Yunjian's action of killing the flame beast paused as he turned his head over. This one look gave the flame beast an opportunity. Its flaming claws fiercely struck towards Long Yunjian's head. Ajan, be careful! Yiqing Luo's glower flame fan immediately released a hurricane. But the flame beast's attack had already landed. Just at this moment, class monitor. A panicked cry was heard. Following that, a figure flew past, directly knocking Long Yunjian away. The flame beast's claw landed on that figure's back. Coincidentally, Yiqing Luo's hurricane landed on the flame beast. The flaming beast let out a howl, and suddenly turned into flames, disappearing without a trace. Ziqing. Yiqing Luo released Dmo Xian's arm, as she jogged towards Tong Ziqing's direction. Tong Ziqing laid on the ground. The academy uniform had been burnt, revealing the skin on her back. The originally fair skin was now a patch of burn marks. Yiqing Luo's hand had just touched Tong Ziqing when she heard Tong Ziqing moaning in pain. Sister Ziqing. Kitty Li also jogged over, looking at the wound on Tong Ziqing's back. Her eyes were filled with heartache tears. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. She took a look at the surrounding, which were still pouncing over, as she spoke in a low voice. Let me give you a simple treatment first. After we leave this place, I'll bandage it properly. Long Yunjian was pushed to one side, as his footsteps staggered a little, as he stabilized himself. Following that, his vision looked towards Tong Ziqing, whose face was filled with pain, as she laid on the ground. His azure blue eyes flickered slightly. It was Tong Ziqing, who rushed up without hesitation, helping him to block the flame beast's attack. Such a beautiful lady. But now, it was a patch of charred black. The person who injured Tong Ziqing was him. Because of his absent-mindedness, gave the flame beast an opportunity, which led to Tong Ziqing helping him to block the attack and getting injured. What are you still in a daze for? Yan Shaoyi looked at Long Yunjian, who was staring at Tong Ziqing in a daze. As Qiao Jin's face surfaced in her mind, Tong Ziqing admired Long Yunjian. This was a secret, which the entire class knew. But Long Yunjian never gave Tong Ziqing any sort of response. Seeing that Tong Ziqing was willing to sacrifice her own life for Long Yunjian, Gulingji's heart skipped a beat. Strangely, Yan Shaoyi thought of herself in Qiao Jin. She admired Qiao Jin. But Qiao Jin didn't give her any response. He even pushed her toward Shishanglan. An indescribable anger rose from the bottom of his heart. Yan Shaoyi also didn't have a good expression towards Long Yunjian. It's all because you were distracted that caused Ziqing to get injured because of you. Didn't you hear what Qing Luo said? Let's kill these flaming beasts first and leave this place. Long Yunjian snapped out of his daze. His azure eyes blinked. Her long eyelashes were trembling slightly. He looked at Tong Ziqing's pained expression and slowly tightened his grip on the longsword in his hand. He then flew into the midst of the flaming beasts. Dmo Xian's appearance, coupled with Gui Wu and Zomo's actions. In just a short moment, all the flame beasts in the surroundings had been cleaned up. He looked at the blazing flames around him. Yiqing Luo was worried that those flame beasts would continue to spawn. After helping Tong Ziqing to take care of her burns, Yiqing Luo suggested to seek refuge at Vermilion Bird's side. Vermilion Bird was born at the heart meridian of the Foundation Land, and it had the might of a sacred beast. These flame beasts shouldn't dare to barge in. After getting everyone's approval, Yiqing Luo bent down and was about to help Tong Ziqing up. Chapter 1521. Long Yunjian bent down and said calmly, "Let me do it." Following that, he carefully avoided the wound on Tong Ziqing's back and circled her in his arms. A slight movement could also touch Tong Ziqing's skin. Tong Ziqing, who had long fallen into a coma, groaned in pain. Long Yunjian's body stiffened. Staring at Tong Ziqing's tightly knitted brows, the expression on his face turned gloomy. Looking at Long Yunjian's expression, Yiqing Luo quietly retreated back to Dmo Xian's side. The usually cold Long Yunjian was now willing to hug Tong Ziqing. To the both of them, this should be considered as a progress. It looked like Tong Ziqing blocking for Long Yunjian wasn't as bad as she imagined. Dmo Xian rubbed her little head and said softly, "Stop looking, let's go, the flame beasts will be born again." The two of them led the way. The group of people followed behind. Behind them was extremely lively, and they could hear Kitty Li's cries from time to time. Yiqing Luo wanted to call Kitty Li over to her side, but was stopped by Dmo Xian. Seeing Long Yunjian hugging Tong Ziqing in his arms, Kitty Li was preparing to stick to Yiqing Luo. But before she could walk over, her body felt light. She fell into a warm and firm embrace again. "Little wild cat, those who are injured should stay here obediently, don't run around recklessly." The man's hoarse voice was beside her ear, extremely seductive. Kitty Li's cheeks blushed slightly as she shrunk her sensitive neck unnaturally and struggled. "Frivolous man. Kitty Li wants to follow sister, not run around recklessly. Let go of Kitty. Little wildcat is not obedient. Be careful that student Yiqing Luo will hate you." Zoemo laughed softly as he hugged her even tighter. The petite figure in his arms stiffened as her round eyes widened. "Sister won't hate Kitty." Zomo's almond-shaped eyes squinted as he smiled like a fox. "That overlord brother-in-law of yours usually doesn't meet up with student Yiqing Luo. You went over to pester student Yiqing Luo and disturbed their lovey-dovey love, so you're not an obedient kitty." Kitty Li's struggling movements gradually stopped. She blinked her eyes. Her gaze swept around. His elder sister and Dizun's brother-in-law were walking at the very front. Their bodies were tightly pressed together, and they seemed to be whispering something. From the looks of it, she was indeed very infatuated. There was no room for anyone else. Then he looked at Long Yunjian and Tong Ziqing. Although it was quiet, Tong Ziqing was unconscious and Long Yunjian's face was cold. There was no room for anyone else. She pursed her lips and furrowed her brows in distress. Zoemo saw that her expression had loosened. He leaned close to her ear and breathed a warm breath. So little wild cat, stay in my arms and be a good baby. Why did this sentence sound so strange? Why do I feel like I'm being treated as a pet? Kitty Lee's mind was in chaos because of Zoemo. She stopped struggling and obediently nestled in Zoemo's arms. Gui Wu, who was walking behind them, helplessly sighed and shook his head. The beast men were indeed naive. With just a few words from Zoemo, he obediently obeyed. However, this was the first time he had seen Zoemo so concerned about a woman. On their way, they met several batches of flame beasts. After killing their way through, they finally reached the heart vein zone. Just as Yiqing Luo had guessed. They had just entered the sea of fire. The flame beasts that were chasing relentlessly stopped in their tracks. Chapter 1522. Ugly woman, what infuriating things did you do outside again, that those flame beasts had chased all the way to this sacred beast territory? A shrill voice filled with mockery could be heard. Everyone's vision immediately turned towards the direction of the voice. They saw a sky full of flames. A noble and elegant vermilion bird and a white tiger were suspended above the sea of flames. Instructor Luo and Instructor Li were dumbstruck as they stared at the sea of flames, as their breathing hastened. This is... Gui Wu narrowed his sinister eyes. Vermilion bird? Vermilion bird is actually here? Zoemo's brows rose leisurely, as he shot a glance at Yiqing Luo with interest. Tisk. So to say, the divine object descending from the flame lair is referring to Vermilion bird? Hearing Gui Wu and Zoemo admit that this was one of the 4 sacred beasts, Vermilion bird sacred beast, the 2 instructors' eyes were all dazed. What day was it today? Not only did they meet the mysterious overlord, they also met the mysterious death god castle lord. Then they met the white tiger sacred beast, and now they even met Vermilion bird. Was this a test of their heart's endurance? Yiqing Luo didn't reply Vermilion bird's words. Instead she turned her gaze towards Long Yunjian. Zhan, put Ziqing here, I'll bandage her wound again. Long Yunjian put down Tong Ziqing. Yiqing Luo called Chi over, using its huge body to block the other's vision. She then used the dagger to cut open Tong Ziqing's clothes. The flame beast's attack was extremely vicious. This burn, Tong Ziqing's back was almost scalded. Even if it was healed in the end, it would probably leave behind a scalded scar. In this continent where men were superior to women, if a lady had a scar, it would be a problem for her to get married in future. Yiqing Luo sighed softly. After Tong Ziqing's wound was healed, she had to flip through the 100 refinement pills to see if there was any prescription for removing scars. Chi was called away. Vermilion bird felt that it was neglected, especially when those foolish humans were using a judgmental gaze to stare at it. The vermilion bird immediately felt that its dignity as a sacred beast had been insulted. A pair of scarlet-red beast eyes stared at Yiqing Luo with extreme displeasure. Ugly woman, how dare you ignore this sacred beast's words? Do you believe that this sacred beast will chase you out to feed those flame beasts right now? It flapped its wings and circled above the sea of fire. The phoenix feathers that overflowed with colorful light flowed with a dazzling brilliance. Still, no one responded to it despite its clamor. Hey, ugly girl. The vermilion bird opened its mouth in displeasure and was about to fly into a rage. However, he was stopped by a pair of extremely cold eyes. Yiqing Luo raised her charming eyes. Her eyes were suffused with an extremely cold glint as she stared coldly at Vermilion bird. Her face was expressionless, without the gentleness and smile from before. Shut up. You. The vermilion bird flapped its wings, its crimson eyes burning with rage. How dare you disrespect this holy beast? I'm being polite to you because you and Mu Chichi are old friends. Yiqing Luo's expression turned cold as she berated sternly. With your little temper, it doesn't matter how you treat me, but now, I'm not in the mood to joke with you. Perhaps it was Yiqing Luo's aura which made the vermilion bird inexplicably palpitate. The vermilion bird opened its sharp mouth, but in the end, it didn't say a word. It arrogantly turned its head away as its entire body submerged into the sea of fire, disappearing without a trace. The heart arteries regained its original tranquility. Chapter 15:23. By the time Yiqing Luo finished applying medicine for Tong Ziqing and changed into a new set of uniform, it was already 1 hour later. Yiqing Luo wiped the sweat off her forehead. Just as she stood up, a hand touched her forehead. The handkerchief with the scent of sandalwood gently covered her forehead. She looked up and happened to see a pair of slender fingers with distinct joints. Under the raging flames, it was coated with a layer of lustrous multicolored light. That finger pinched a handkerchief and wiped the sweat on Yiqing Luo's forehead. "You've worked hard." Yiqing Luo shook her head and her soft body leaned into Dmo Xian's embrace. A Xian her body might leave a scar. Dmo Xian's gaze swept past Tong Ziqing, who was sprawled on the ground as he sighed softly. Leaving a scar was extremely serious for a woman. The atmosphere inexplicably became somewhat heavy. Suddenly, Long Yunzhan's icy cold voice was heard. "Qing Luo, you said, the scars on Ziqing's body cannot be removed?" "Very difficult." Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. "The flame beast's flames are different from ordinary blazing flames. If it wasn't for the fact that Ziqing knew how to use her profound qi to protect herself when she blocked that move, otherwise, she would have long been burnt into ashes by that ball of blazing flames. To be honest, the fact that Tong Ziqing was still alive after that attack was unbelievable. It was already a miracle. The medicinal pills and scar-removing ointment that she had on her now were not of much use to Tong Ziqing. Long Yunzhan fell silent. He looked in the direction of Tong Ziqing, his azure blue eyes flashing with a trace of complicated emotions. "I'll think of something when I get back," Yiqing Luo continued. "If you feel remorseful, just treat her gently during this period of time when she's recuperating. That's enough." Tong Ziqing had never hoped to obtain Long Yunzhan's love. As for Long Yunzhan, he was a human dragon. The things he carried on his back were too much. If the two of them wanted to be together, there would be many obstacles. The only thing she could do was, even when Tong Ziqing was still in love with Long Yunzhan, create possible opportunities for them. In the end, it was up to them to decide what path they would take. Long Yunzhan looked at Tong Ziqing's direction without blinking and did not reply. Yiqing Luo didn't say anything else. She rested for a moment before walking to the entrance of the heart vein. The flaming beasts outside the entrance had already disappeared. But Yiqing Luo knew, once they stepped out of the entrance, he would definitely be surrounded by the flaming beasts. Everyone had been found. She had also seen the vermilion bird that had summoned Qiqi. Right now, it was time to think of a way to leave this place. "Qiqi." Yiqing Luo patted Qiqi's head. "Did vermilion bird say how we should leave this place?" Qiqi shook her head. "The vermilion bird's personality. Master has seen it. It can't wait for Qiqi to stay here with it. How would it be willing to tell Qiqi the way to leave this place? In other words, it knows how to leave this place." Yiqing Luo raised her brows. Qiqi paused for a moment before replying, "I think so." Yiqing Luo nodded thoughtfully. "Since it knows the way to leave, then it's easy. Go summon the vermilion bird." Qiqi looked at her master with a crafty look in her eyes. His hair stood on end. Cough cough. Every time his master revealed such an expression, it indicated that someone was going to be unlucky. Amen. This time the unlucky one wasn't a person, but a beast. Vermilion bird's personality indeed needed to be tamed. Qiqi moved its tiger claws as it walked to the side of the sea of fire. Chapter 15:24. Qiqi let out a tiger's roar, and the entire sea of fire rippled with magma. The sparks flew all over the sky. However, there was no movement in the sea of fire. Vermilion bird didn't come up. Qiqi turned its head and looked at Yiqing Luo. Seeing Yiqing Luo standing there with her arms crossed calmly, it looked towards the direction of the sea of fire, and let out another roar. The magma tumbled even more violently. The majesty of the sacred beast caused the entire heart vein to shake. Awo! Chi-Chi seemed to be urging Vermilion Bird to come out as the tiger's roar sounded slightly hurried. Only Vermilion Bird, who was buried in the sea of fire, didn't give any response. Chi-Chi looked at its master helplessly. Master Vermilion Bird is the most stingy. Earlier master's words made it unhappy, so it intentionally hid. A sacred beast also knew how to throw a tantrum. Yiqing Luo looked at the sea of fire and waved her hand to let Chi-Chi come back. Yiqing Luo had long guessed that Vermilion Bird would not cooperate, so she wasn't surprised. Chi-Chi returned to Tong Ziqing's side and squatted on the ground as a pair of tiger eyes rolled around. Yiqing Luo walked to the place where Chi-Chi was standing earlier. Narrowing her eyes, she swept her gaze across the boundless sea of fire. Her fingers moved. A raging flame feather fan appeared on her fingertips. Yiqing Luo's lips curled as her profound chi condensed. The glower flame fan opened up and swept up several hurricanes. In a split second, the entire sea of fire raged. Several hurricanes swept up the sea of fire. As the hurricanes rotated more and more violently, that flame also followed the hurricanes and swept up. In just a short while, the heart meridian was completely engulfed by tornadoes one after another. The sea of fire rolled and the hurricanes raged. The ground gradually cracked open. Like a dense spiderweb, it spread out. Gui Wu and the others retreated a few steps back, before forming a barrier, blocking the sparks that filled the sky. Zhou Mo clicked his tongue as he laughed heartily. Student Yiqing Luo's way of doing things is indeed eye-opening. Only she can think of such a method, and only she dares to do it. That's the Vermilion Bird sacred beast. What she did, if she angered the Vermilion Bird sacred beast. Instructor Li looked at Yiqing Luo's ferocious actions, and his heart was beating extremely quickly. She's trying to provoke the Vermilion Bird. Gui Wu narrowed his eyes as he stared deeply at Yiqing Luo. The corners of his lips actually revealed an extremely shallow smile. Just then, the sky was filled with hurricanes, tornadoes, and fiery winds. A furious and clear cry resounded through the 9 heavens. The sharp and clear cry was frightening. Soon after, a red shadow flapped its wings and flew out of the sea of fire. Surrounded by flames, the phoenix feathers overflowing with light and vibrant colors were exquisite beyond compare. Ugly woman! Vermilion Bird's angry voice rang out. Its scarlet-red eyes stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose as her lips curled into a cold smile. Why, you're willing to come out? Don't you want to continue being a coward? The flames in Vermilion Bird's eyes leaped for a moment. A war. Chi-Chi gave a low cry, warning Vermilion Bird. Clang clang. Just as Chi-Chi's low cry sounded, Vermilion Bird flapped its wings and flew. With a swoosh, it turned into a bewitching red glow. It flew straight towards Yiqing Luo's face. Clang clang. Clang 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 clang. The clear cry was extremely sharp. That imposing manner that flew over was like a continuous sea of fire, gushing over. Awo-woo. Chi-Chi's warning cry reverberated in their ears, accompanied by Yan Xiaoyi and the others' panicked cries. Chapter 1525. Bam! A loud sound of collision was heard. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel that Vermilion Bird's huge body had crashed onto her. But she didn't feel the intense pain that she had imagined. On the contrary, an indescribable scorching feeling was burning her body. That scorching feeling was like balls of blazing fire, enveloping her entirely. Numerous airflow was released from the bottom of her feet, lingering into one after another whirlpool. Yiqing Luo let out a painful moan. There seemed to be something in her body, colliding against her limbs and bones. Her meridians were also expanding at this moment. She shut her eyes tightly. The scorching feeling and swelling feeling in her body had already made her consciousness become muddled. Yiqing Luo didn't know that the few people who were standing by the side, who were originally extremely worried, were now looking at her with disbelief and shock. They saw with their own eyes that Vermilion Bird, which was burning in flames, charging towards Yiqing Luo. Just as Yiqing Luo was about to counterattack, Vermilion Bird had already crashed onto Yiqing Luo. Following that, they saw that huge, noble and elegant vermilion bird, merging with Yiqing Luo in a split second. It could totally be considered as directly merging with Yiqing Luo as one. Following that, Yiqing Luo's body gradually floated above the sea of flames. A ball of flames enveloped her entirely. Strong, profound qi turned into bursts of energy, encircling the surroundings of the flames, revolving nonstop. This was obviously the rhythm of advancement. Dmo Xian's footsteps, which had already taken a step forward, stopped on the spot. A pair of shimmering peach blossom eyes gazed deeply at the lady in midair. Vermilion Bird and Lil Luo signed the contract. He let out a low chuckle. His laughter was filled with doting and joy towards Yiqing Luo. Who would have thought that the Vermilion Bird, who originally looked down on Yiqing Luo and had challenged her several times, would choose to sign the contract with Yiqing Luo at this moment? Yiqing Luo's attitude towards Vermilion Bird was absolutely not good. How could a tsundere like Vermilion Bird make such a choice? Almost everyone present felt that Vermilion Bird was about to attack Yiqing Luo. They had not expected Vermilion Bird to sign the contract with Yiqing Luo. Vermilion Bird was one of the 4 sacred beasts. Sign a contract with Vermilion Bird. The Vermilion Bird's power fused with Yiqing Luo's profound Jade Heart's power. From then on, it caused the energy within Yiqing Luo's body to keep on increasing explosively, attaining the opportunity to advance. Rumble. An earth-shattering thunderous sound fell into everyone's ears clearly. The entire land of the roots started to shake under this shocking thunder. The stones with sparks on the rock wall also fell down piece by piece. Instructor Luo and Instructor Li looked at each other. He could no longer suppress his excitement. Lightning tribulation. This is a lightning tribulation. Someone is about to advance to the profound sky realm. Heavens! Sky Mystic Supreme. Is it student Yiqing Luo? In the Nirvana realm, practitioners above the profound sky realm had already stepped into the ranks of world-shaking experts. However, if a profound practitioner wanted to advance to the sky profound realm, he would have to go through the lightning tribulation. This lightning tribulation was a test that every profound rank cultivator had to endure after reaching the profound sky realm. Once he passed the lightning tribulation, he would be able to successfully advance. Instructor Li and Instructor Luo couldn't hide their shock. Yiqing Luo was just a 15-year-old young lady. She had the divine dragon, contracted with the white tiger sacred beast, and now there was a vermilion bird sacred beast. Even directly advanced to the profound sky realm. This luck was simply heaven-defying. How could ordinary people live in this world, other than Yiqing Luo, who was so heaven-defying? Chapter 1526. Yiqing Luo couldn't feel anything from the outside world. The scorching and expanding feeling in her body kept washing over her. Gradually, Yiqing Luo sensed a burst of vigorous energy erupting from her profound jade heart. Yiqing Luo was the clearest about this feeling. Not long ago, she had just experienced this feeling. During the battle with the Imperial Palace's granny, she successfully advanced to Earth Profound 9th grade in the nick of time. This feeling was exactly the same as when she was advancing. Was she going to advance again? Yiqing Luo's consciousness gradually recovered. The scene of Vermilion Bird crashing into her appeared in her mind. Her eyes suddenly lit up. She concentrated and sensed. Indeed, in her pet space, she felt Vermilion Bird's presence. Vermilion Bird and her signed a life and death contract. The same contract as Chi. To tell the truth, signing a contract with Vermilion Bird was out of Yiqing Luo's expectations. But it was also considered as unexpected. Everything depended on the relationship between Vermilion Bird and Chi. Even if Vermilion Bird agreed to sign a contract with her for Chi, it would at most be an equal contract. She had not expected Vermilion Bird to use its own soul to forcefully sign a life and death contract with her. Didn't Vermilion Bird especially hate her? If they signed a life and death contract, Vermilion Bird would follow her forever, unable to leave. Vermilion Bird didn't give any reply to her question. The pet space was quiet. There was no sound at all. Yiqing Luo expressed. She really couldn't understand the sacred beast's thoughts towards such a willful vermilion bird. What else could she say? Ugly woman, what nonsense are you still thinking about? If you fail to advance, this sacred beast shall see how you advance in future. Vermilion bird's shrill voice was filled with disdain, as though it despised Yiqing Luo for thinking about all sorts of things at this critical juncture, not absorbing the surrounding spiritual qi to coordinate with her advancement. Yiqing Luo stabilized her state of mind. She started to concentrate fully, welcoming the impact of the advancement. The thunder tribulation was still ongoing. Yiqing Luo's aura kept rising. Profound qi rose sharply, extremely turbulent. The crowd were all sighing with emotion. Yiqing Luo's life was really good. Right now, they were in the depths of the blazing flame nest. The thunder tribulation couldn't strike in at all. In other words, Yiqing Luo didn't need to endure the thunder calamity. She just needed to absorb the spiritual qi to advance. Unknowingly, an hour had passed in a flash. Yiqing Luo's entire body surged with a powerful profound qi. A terrifying aura instantly filled the entire heart meridian. This aura hadn't even formed yet. In the next instant, there was nothing left. At the same time, Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly opened wide. Her arms trembled. A wave of qi spread out in the air in the form of invisible ripples. Yiqing Luo felt that her body was extremely relaxed and long. It was as if there was an endless stream of spiritual energy spreading through his meridians. Even his breathing became much smoother and more relaxed. This time round of advancement, Yiqing Luo wasn't like before, jumping a few grades. The 9th grade of the Earth Profound Realm was promoted to the 1st grade of the Sky Profound Realm. Yiqing Luo thought that if she wanted to advance to the Sky Profound grade, she would need at least a few years before she could find this opportunity. Unexpectedly, on the same day, she directly advanced to the Sky Profound Realm. One had to know that there were at least 100 masters in the world, who were known as unworldly masters. They would never be able to break through this barrier and step into the Sky Profound Supreme Realm, even if they spent their entire lives. Chapter 1527. Little Luo. Seeing Yiqing Luo's surrounding aura gradually stabilized, Diemo Xian immediately went forward and pulled Yiqing Luo into his arms. It was extremely gentle, filled with worry and anxiety. His profound energy was roaming around her body. He checked her body to see if she was injured. After confirming that she was unscathed, even the external injuries she had suffered from the Imperial Palace's old granny had completely healed. He heaved a sigh of relief. Xian, I've advanced. Yiqing Luo's tone was filled with surprise. She couldn't believe it herself. She was actually this lucky. This trip to the flame lair was a trip to level up for her. Diemo Xian hugged her delicate body tightly, his voice hoarse. I know. His heart was still unable to calm down. Heavens knew how much willpower he had used to restrain himself from rushing forward and pulling Yiqing Luo into his arms. The moment Vermilion Bird rushed towards Yiqing Luo, for the first time in his life, he felt a suffocating sense of anxiety. Yiqing Luo was enveloped in flames as she fell into the tribulation of advancement. Let out a groan of pain. His heart ached fiercely, but he knew that he couldn't go up at this moment and disturb Yiqing Luo. This was the opportunity for Yiqing Luo to advance to the Sky Profound grade. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He also hoped that Yiqing Luo could gradually mature. To become a powerhouse, one had to experience pain. Yiqing Luo leaned against his chest. She could smell the elegant sandalwood scent on his body. She closed her eyes slightly. Sky Profound Realm. She had finally become a profound practitioner of the Sky Profound Realm. Finally, she was one step closer to Diemo Xian. Student Yiqing Luo. A deep voice sounded out, interrupting the two of them from snuggling together. Yiqing Luo lifted her eyes from Diemo Xian's arms and looked at Gui Wu. Since you've already formed a contract with the Vermilion Bird, let's get the Vermilion Bird to tell us how to leave this place. Gui Wu's expression was cold. The students are still waiting for us. Yiqing Luo nodded her head. Now was not the time to stay here. It's not like there aren't any ways to leave. A sharp voice rang beside Yi Qingluo's ears. Yi Qingluo glanced sideways and saw a palm-sized bird standing on her shoulder. He looked at it up close. The phoenix feathers were as red as fire, and there were even red electric currents flowing through them. What way? Yi Qingluo asked. The vermilion bird shook its small head. Its scarlet eyes were like two fiery red gems, dazzling and dazzling. Ugly woman, you should know that this place is the underground heart vein of the flame nest. This place concerns the lifeline of the entire flame nest. Yi Qingluo couldn't understand why Vermilion Bird would give her such a nickname. No matter how he looked at it, the word ugly didn't seem to fit her at all. Vermilion Bird paused and looked at her with disdain. Ugly woman, don't look at this holy beast with such ugly eyes. Although this holy beast has a contract with you, this holy beast is not like Little White, who has no bottom line. Ao. Chi-Chi retorted with a low growl. Enough. Yi Qingluo raised her hand and knocked on Vermilion Bird's head mercilessly. Tell me the main point. Vermilion Bird was like a little bird, chirping and jumping on Yi Qingluo's shoulder. That pair of wings flapped open, and a scorching hot wind blew against Yi Qingluo's face. Chapter 1528. Being Tsundere once was cute. Being Tsundere twice was fun. But being Tsundere 3 times 4 times, or even countless times, that would make one sick of it. So what if Vermilion Bird was a sacred beast? Since it had already chosen to sign a life and death contract with her, then it should know its own position. He could bring out his incomparably noble identity as a sacred beast at any time and place. But it must have forgotten about it. It was no longer the Vermilion Bird from 10,000 years ago, who could summon the wind and rain, and just a cry could shake the heavens and earth. It was just a battle pet that she, Yi Qingluo, had signed a contract with. That was all. Yi Qingluo's threat made Vermilion Bird's scarlet red eyes surging with flames. It flapped its little wings and flew one round around Yi Qingluo. Ugly woman, don't think that you can do anything to me just because I have signed a contract with you. I am telling you. I am willing to sign a contract with you because I can't bear to be separated from Little White, so I lowered my status. How dare you try to take advantage of me? It gave a cold snort, flapped its wings and flew towards the direction of the Sea of Fire. But, after Vermilion Bird's wings flapped for some time, it realized that it had not moved an inch. Immediately following that, its tail was violently dragged back by a huge force. Vermilion Bird turned its head. His eyes met with a pair of enchanting eyes that seemed to be smiling yet not smiling. Yi Qingluo's hand was tugging its tail. He pulled it back mercilessly. The strength was so strong that Vermilion Bird couldn't help but let out a painful cry. The crowd was stunned. That was a Vermilion Bird sacred beast. How could Yi Qingluo be so ruthless? Or, because Yi Qingluo had an obedient sacred beast in her hand, so she didn't care about the other sacred beasts? Yi Qingluo didn't have the mood to probe into the instructor's heart. At this moment, she was staring at the Vermilion Bird which was still flapping its wings in her hand. Her eyes sunk slightly. She wanted to subdue Vermilion Bird. But what she needed was an obedient battle pet. If after signing a contract with her, Vermilion Bird had to maintain this high and mighty state, in the future, it would be even more difficult to get along. After that, he had a conflict with the Vermilion Bird, causing Chi-Chi to be caught in a dilemma. It would be better to either subdue the Vermilion Bird, or leave it here. However, Yi Qingluo could roughly guess that Vermilion Bird would absolutely not be willing to stay in such a dark place. Otherwise, as the Vermilion Bird had said, it was doing this for Chi-Chi's sake. As long as he signed an equal contract with her, he would be able to be with Mu Chi-Chi. This life and death contract. Yi Qingluo couldn't help but ponder over Vermilion Bird's motive. Thinking of this, Yi Qingluo grabbed the Vermilion Bird's tail, hung it upside down and walked directly towards the direction of the Sea of Fire. Since you've signed a contract with me, then treat me as your master. I won't keep any perverse companions by my side. Yi Qingluo's lips curled upward slightly, but her squinted eyes didn't contain any hint of a smile. Since you're so against me, then I shall use my master's identity to announce the first mission. You vermilion bird, forever guard the heart vein until I come again. Yiqing Luo enunciated each word clearly and calmly. As soon as she finished speaking, she spread her fingers. The red bird in her hand fell into the sea of fire. Yiqing Luo turned around and walked away suavely. Let's go, let's find the exit. The two instructors looked at Yiqing Luo in a daze, totally unable to react in time. Chapter 1529. Yiqing Luo was too lazy to care about their reactions. She walked to Dmo Xian's side, held his arm and walked towards the direction of the heart vein entrance. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, Yiqing Luo silently counted in her heart. Immediately, when she counted to the 6th step, she raised her eyes and revealed a sly smile. At the same time, a sharp voice behind her spoke quickly. The way to leave the land of the root vein is to cross the sea of fire. The exit is at the end of the sea of fire. Without this sacred beast's help, none of you will be able to cross this sea of fire. Vermilion Bird's small body flew out of the sea of fire. Yiqing Luo paused her footsteps, slowly turned her head and looked at Vermilion Bird with a smile. I have more than one sacred beast. If you can cross the sea of fire, Chi can too. Moreover, Maixian's war pet is a nine-tailed fox. Nine-tailed fox also belonged to the fire attribute. Because of Vermilion Bird, the sea of fire would not hurt Chi, and the nine-tailed fox would not be afraid of this level of fire. Vermilion Bird's flapping wings paused slightly. That pair of red beast eyes stared fiercely at Dmo Xian. It thought, as long as it said it, it would be the only opportunity to leave the land of the root vein. If Yiqing Luo wanted to leave, she had to please it. But this ugly woman, he was really cunning to the extreme. She was exactly the same as that ugly woman 10,000 years ago, tricking a beast without a word of disagreement. It gritted its teeth and said fiercely, if not for this sacred beast's escort, those flame beasts will absolutely swallow you up, not even leaving bones behind. Yiqing Luo touched her chin and nodded. What you said is very reasonable, all right, I will reluctantly let you escort. Vermilion Bird only felt that there was an unknown flame, burning fiercely in its heart. Damn it, Yiqing Luo deliberately waited for it to say this? Damn it. Could it regret? Could it regret that it was so stupid to sign a life and death contract with Yiqing Luo? No matter how it cursed in its heart, Vermilion Bird still suppressed the displeasure in its heart and became a mount. Alright, so be it as a mount. But why was it carrying a few big men on its back? Instructor Luo, Instructor Li, Ghost Martial Artist, and Zhou Mo, who was holding Kitty Li, were all on Vermilion Bird's back. If there was only Yiqing Luo on his back, then it could only be said that she was his master's mount. But what right did a group of lowly humans have to sit on its noble back? The Vermilion Bird felt that its dignity as a sacred beast had been trampled underfoot by this group of humans. The Vermilion Bird expressed that it also had dignity. It could also go berserk. Vermilion Bird, I advise you to listen to Master. Long Yun Zhan, who was carefully carrying Tong Ziqing, was on Chi-Chi's back. It walked to the Vermilion Bird's side and whispered in beast language. This ugly woman is simply a she-devil. The Vermilion Bird cried out angrily. She's even more insane than that she-devil from 10,000 years ago. Chi-Chi shook her head. Master is actually very easy to get along with. You will understand Chi-Chi's words after being with Master for a long time. The Vermilion Bird snorted. I think I might never be able to understand. Chi-Chi didn't continue persuading it, but only reminded. If you want to stay by Master's side, you'd better listen to Master, otherwise. Chi-Chi can guarantee that your days will be even more miserable than today. This is advice from you, who had been ravaged by the she-devil. The Vermilion Bird's red eyes were filled with disdain. Chapter 1530. The Vermilion Bird expressed. Can you still have some backbone as a holy beast? Whether Vermilion Bird was willing or not. In the end, The vermilion bird still carried the few men on her back and rushed above the sea of fire. Chi-Chi carried Long Yunjian and Tong Ziqing on her back, as well as the unconscious Zhu Wuxin. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian sat on Little Nine's back as they followed behind. The saint beast was extremely fast. In a short moment, the three beasts had already crossed a large sea of fire, as far as the eye could see. In all directions was a sea of fire that stretched as far as the eye could see. Vermilion bird, let me give you a name. Yiqing Luo sat cross-legged on the back of the nine-tailed fox and stared at the figure of the vermilion bird. I can't call you vermilion bird in front of outsiders. What's wrong with vermilion bird? Those stupid humans have to kneel and beg for mercy when they hear my name. The vermilion bird snorted. It didn't think there was anything wrong with its name. Yiqing Luo directly ignored vermilion bird's words and held her chin. Ah Xian, Chi-Chi is called Chi-Chi, what do you think? It is called Baba, what do you think? Dmo Xian's eyes were filled with adoration. That's great. This holy beast doesn't want to be called Baba. How can such a lame name highlight the majesty of this sacred beast? The vermilion bird immediately cried out. After it finished howling, it recalled that Yiqing Luo didn't bother about it. Then it continued to roar. Even if I die, I won't call myself Baba. If you give this sacred beast this name, this sacred beast will perish together with you. It spun around and stopped in front of Yiqing Luo. The crimson eyes of the beast were wide open. He looked as if he was unafraid of death. It was as if making it call Baba was more serious than taking its life. Yiqing Luo. Why did she feel that her naming ability was pretty good? 7788. How simple and crude was that? Chi-Chi nodded, agreeing with her master's point of view. It especially liked the name its master gave it. Tian. A low voice came from not far in front of them. Yiqing Luo looked towards the direction of the voice and saw Ghost Marshal looking expressionlessly in their direction. Tian. Yiqing Luo murmured these two words. Was this the name that Gui Wu had given the vermilion bird? It was indeed not bad. All right. In the future, vermilion bird's name will be Qi Yan. Yiqing Luo waved her hand and decided on the name vermilion bird. Qi Yan, aren't you going to thank Master Gui Wu for giving you this name? The word bestowed. It pierced vermilion bird's ears. But thinking of the names Qi Yan and Baba, it clenched its teeth and chose to abandon its bottom line, abandon its moral integrity, and arrogantly snorted in the direction of the ghost martial artist. This holy beast likes your name very much. This holy beast will reluctantly use this name. Yiqing Luo. She felt that vermilion bird's name should be Qiao Jiao. After the name was decided, Yiqing Luo looked down at the rolling magma and the flaming beast that would pop its head out from time to time and wave its arms. At the base of the fire lair, wherever there was fire, there would be fire beasts. Those fire beasts were clearly exuding an extremely strong killing intent. It was as if it wanted to charge forward and drag them into the sea of fire, engulfing them completely. If Qi Yan wasn't here, Yiqing Luo believed that these fire beasts would absolutely not be courteous. Qi Yan. Those cultivators who headed towards the fire lair were all engulfed by the fire beasts? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she seemed to have thought of something as she opened her mouth to ask. After the imperial tutor's prophecy, large groups of cultivators flocked into the fire lair, but none of them survived. At the base, Yiqing Luo didn't see any bones or any traces of other cultivators. Chapter 1531. This sacred beast hasn't been awake for a long time, but during this period of time when this sacred beast was awake, I indeed sensed quite a number of foolish humans, coming wave after wave to die. Mentioning this matter, Qi Yan's tone turned grave. Those profound practitioners were indeed burned by the flaming beasts to the point where not even their bones were left. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian exchanged glances. Their guess was indeed right. The terror of the flame nest wasn't in the flame nest, but in the depths of the flame nest, which was the foundation ground. But how did those cultivators enter the flame nest's foundation ground? Didn't Old Man Song say, They were sucked into the foundation ground because of the profound qi battle between Zhu Wu Xian and Dmo Xian, which led to the flame nest activating its self-protection mechanism. Those cultivators, how could they activate the flame nest's self-protection mechanism? Those foolish humans, to be able to enter the foundation ground is indeed very strange. And there's another point, which is also very strange, Vermilion Bird said. Although the flame beast is the guardian beast of the foundation ground, but before it gets close to the heart vein, the flame beast will absolutely not casually launch an attack. But after those cultivators entered the foundation ground, the flame beast seemed to have gone mad, swallowing all the cultivators. Yi Qing Luo caught the main point. What you mean is, the flame beast's rampage is not so simple? These foolish humans died. This sacred beast doesn't care. So whether it's simple or not, this sacred beast doesn't have a deep understanding. Vermilion Bird spread out its phoenix wings, swaying a stretch of seductive ripples. This sacred beast only knows, after swallowing 3 batches of foolish humans, no one else came again. 3 batches? And in batches? Which meant, the number of people who were swallowed by the flame beast was extremely large. But, thinking about it, it made sense. Yi Qing Luo had crossed hands with the flame beast and understood how powerful it was. Especially, that ability which kept on deriving. No matter how strong the person was, he wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Those cultivators, naturally wouldn't be as lucky as them. Following Chi-Chi's directions, they found the heart vein. And using Chi-Chi's relationship, they obtained Vermilion Bird's protection. Those flame beasts wanted to swallow them, but they feared Vermilion Bird's prestige. This holy beast has another strange matter. Qi Yan turned to look at Yi Qing Luo, pointed to her with his sharp mouth, and swept over Dmo Xian. You and, it then looked in Zhu Wuxin's direction. The 3 of you are very strange. What's wrong? Yi Qing Luo asked. After they were sucked into the foundation, they were entangled by the flame beasts. Qi Yan swung his colorful phoenix tail and gestured to the group of people on his back. And the flame beast has never entangled you? Instructor Luo immediately nodded. Yes. After we were sucked in, we were entangled by several flame beasts. Fortunately, Master Gui Wu was there. Otherwise, I'm afraid we would have been devoured by the flame beasts. Wave after wave of flaming beasts. Now that they thought about it, their scalps still felt numb. Yi Qing Luo fell into deep thoughts. After she was sucked into the foundation, she did not encounter any flame beasts. After meeting Zhu Wu Xian, they met Dmo Xian. At the very least, he hadn't encountered any flame beasts in the past few hours. And the appearance of the flame beast, just as they were about to find the heart meridian under Chi-Chi's guidance, all of a sudden, it appeared. Following that, it was wave after wave, and the number kept on increasing. Chapter 1532. These flame beasts are indeed acting strangely today. Qi Yan lowered his head and looked at the magma, constantly waving his arms, as if he wanted to rush up. Ugly woman, what have you done to these flame beasts? Yi Qing Luo still didn't respond to Qi Yan's words. She pondered deeply for a moment and raised her eyes to look at Dmo Xian as she lowered her voice. Xian, could it be? She already had a guess in her heart. Dmo Xian's expression was calm as he nodded. Don't worry, I'm here, don't be afraid. Dmo Xian nodded. Yi Qing Luo's heart thumped loudly. South Wave's continent. Flame nest. It was the Heavenly Dean and the Dark Forces Wolf Saint technique, and Yi Qing Jian who had decided to extract all the students' souls here, and offer them to the King of Darkness. In other words, coincidentally, the Dean of the General Academy had invited Gui Wu and Zhou Mo to train the students of the various academies. The Heavenly Dean didn't need to think of any excuses. Gui Wu immediately brought the students to the Flame Lair. Wolf Saint Art and Yi Qing Qian had long been prepared to extract the students' souls here. Naturally, he was already prepared. The reason why these flaming beasts were so violent was most likely related to the dark forces. Thinking about it, The profound practitioners of the various great forces who had swarmed into the fire lair must have had their souls extracted by the dark forces with the help of the flame beasts. If that was the case, the dark forces were too cruel. Not only the corpses, but the flaming beasts had also devoured them, leaving nothing behind. Even their souls would become food for the King of Darkness. He thought that this matter might be related to the dark forces. Yiqing Luo immediately urged Qi Yan to speed up and lead the way. Gui Wu and Zoemo were by her side. As for the students, other than the two instructors, there were only the elders from the headquarters. If they encountered the dark forces, they would definitely not be a match for the dark forces. Seeing Yiqing Luo's expression suddenly congealed, Gui Wu, who had been paying close attention to Yiqing Luo, his eyes gradually darkened. And the proud Qi Yan, listening to Yiqing Luo's constant urging, the rebellious thoughts made it deliberately slow down its own speed. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased tightly. If not for the fact that Qi Aojiao was carrying the ghost doctor and the rest on her back, she would definitely kick it into the sea of fire. Of course, the reason why Yiqing Luo was so anxious, it wasn't that she cared about the students from the various academies. She had absolute confidence that if the dark forces really took the opportunity to attack the students, they would not be able to escape. The students of the devil class would definitely think of a way to escape. The reason why she urged Qi Yan to speed up like this, it was because she did not want the dark forces' conspiracy to succeed. Right now, the King of Darkness needed a large number of young men and women's souls as food to unlock the so-called seal. The moment the King of Darkness undid the seal, he would die. The strength of the dark forces would definitely have a qualitative leap. At that time, it wouldn't be as easy to deal with as it was now. The dark forces were obviously very interested in her. He wanted to obtain her profound heart jade by every possible means. He wanted to take her away again. What would happen if the dark forces were allowed to develop? Yiqing Luo didn't want to find trouble for herself. It was better to do it before trouble came. He wanted to cut off this source of trouble first. Most importantly, Yiqing Luo had a premonition. Chapter 1533. That King of Darkness who was addressed as king by the dark forces would appear in this world. Otherwise, the dark forces would not take such a huge risk to plan with the Heavenly Academy, to let the various academy students be buried in the blaze nest. After all, once something happened to the various academy students, the students' families would definitely investigate thoroughly and would not let it go easily. The dark forces dared to set up such a plan. They would definitely think of a way to retaliate. Then, the only way was to shock them with their abilities. Yiqing Luo's tone was icy cold as she prepared to threaten them. A deep and cold voice interrupted her before she could say anything. Speed up immediately and leave this place. That voice was thick and powerful. Everyone's gazes converged towards that direction. Even the unconscious Tong Ziqing and Zhuwu Xian were awakened by that voice. It was Gui Wu. His face was cold and sunken as a pair of malicious eyes were suffused with a biting cold glint. That invisible imposing manner made one's back turn cold as they submitted themselves to him. Even Qi Yan was intimidated by this imposing manner. With a flap of his wings, he subconsciously increased his flying speed. Chi-Chi and Little Nine immediately caught up. For a moment, the atmosphere was silent as no one spoke a word. On Chi-Chi's back, Tong Ziqing was awoken by Gui Wu's low growl. The minute she opened her eyes, she felt an intense pain all over her body. Her back felt as if there were densely packed ants wriggling incessantly, bringing with it an unbearable piercing pain. She moved as her brows creased tightly, but her hands were unable to move. Tong Ziqing struggled. "Don't move." A deep voice rang beside her ear. That voice was so familiar that it made her heart tremble. The pained expression on his face froze in that instant. Her long eyelashes trembled slightly. Following that, she opened her eyes. An extremely handsome but expressionless face was reflected in her pupils. Tong Ziqing's eyelashes trembled even more. Her eyes revealed a sliver of astonishment, as though she couldn't believe the person in front of her. You're injured, don't move. Long Yunjian saw the young lady in his arms staring at him without blinking, as though she was in a daze, so he opened his mouth to explain. Qing Luo has already taken a look for you. Bear with it for this period of time and the wound on your back will be healed. But what he said, Tong Ziqing didn't seem to hear it. Her eyes were filled with an infatuated luster as she stared straight at Long Yunjian. Those azure blue eyes were as clear as ice. But for some reason, she felt a sense of satisfaction in her heart. She raised her hand, her fingers trembling, wanting to touch the face that was so close to her. He wanted to make sure that everything before him wasn't a dream. Only in her dreams would Long Yunjian be by her side. It was only in his dreams that the person reflected in Long Yunjian's eyes would be her. The moment Tong Ziqing raised her hand, she felt a heart-wrenching pain that made her face twitch in pain. Long Yunjian immediately stopped her and comforted her in a low voice. Ziqing, I'm here, don't move. After you recover, you can do whatever you want. Her voice was still cold and clear, but Tong Ziqing heard some gentleness. That's right, gentleness. From Long Yunjian she could actually see the gentleness that belonged to her. Tong Ziqing shut her eyes as a bitter smile appeared on her lips. This was indeed a dream. How could Long Yunjian possibly treat her gently? This dream was so real that she knew it was a dream. Chapter 1534. Ziqing. Seeing that she had closed her eyes, Long Yunjian immediately called out Tong Ziqing's name worriedly. He frowned slightly, thinking that Tong Ziqing had closed her eyes because she couldn't bear the pain from her wounds. After waiting for a long time, Tong Ziqing did not reply. Long Yunjian immediately hugged her shoulders tightly, and his voice became even softer. Ziqing, where do you feel uncomfortable? Or does the wound hurt badly? That soft whispering voice. Instantly, Tong Ziqing's eyes turned red. When had Long Yunjian ever spoken in such a gentle voice? Even when facing Qing Luo, Long Yunjian was still expressionless, calm and indifferent. But at this moment, he was so gentle. He could hear the tension in Long Yunjian's voice. She could also feel how unnatural the tight muscles of the right arm that was wrapped around her were. Long Yunjian wasn't used to being gentle. But to her, he tried his best to be gentle. Such gentleness. Not only did it not satisfy Tong Ziqing's heart, on the contrary, it made her want to cry. They were not tears of joy. Instead, she herself did not understand the tears. This dream was too real. Unknowingly, Tong Ziqing felt that the corners of her eyes were actually a little wet. Ziqing. Long Yunjian panicked. The tears at the corner of Tong Ziqing's eyes seeped into his palm. Long Yunjian, who had never taken care of a lady, instantly stretched out his hand helplessly, as he wiped the corners of Tong Ziqing's eyes. As he opened his mouth dryly, Ziqing, tell me if you're not feeling well. Qing Luo is just beside you, you can... Class leader. Tong Ziqing choked with sobs, her voice extremely hoarse. Long Yunjian immediately stopped speaking. Tong Ziqing moved her lips. Long Yunjian's figure was vaguely reflected in her tearful eyes. Class leader, don't be so gentle with me, I'm scared. She was already choking on her last few words. Long Yunjian's body stiffened. His azure blue eyes flickered with a gloomy luster. Tong Ziqing's extremely pale face was like a weeping beauty. No matter how one looked at it, it made one's heart ache. Don't be gentle with her? Is she afraid of his gentleness? Women were really hard to understand. Qing Luo told him to treat Ziqing gently. But Ziqing rejected his gentleness. Long Yunjian was truly unable to understand Tong Ziqing's thoughts. However, when he saw how Tong Ziqing tried to hold back her tears, she couldn't help but cry. Somewhere in her heart, there was a faint throbbing pain. He slowly loosened his grip and placed Tong Ziqing in Chi-Chi's fur. The moment Tong Ziqing landed on Chi-Chi's back, she shrunk to the side. It seemed like he didn't want to come into contact with Long Yunjian at all. Long Yunjian's outstretched hand froze in midair, looking at that delicate body that was trembling uncontrollably. In the end, he withdrew his hand and sat to the side, quietly watching Tong Ziqing. His mind was filled with countless thoughts. Tong Ziqing sobbed silently. Tears soaked Qiqi's fur and stuck to her face. She didn't know why she was crying. He also didn't understand why he had to avoid Long Yinzhan. She clearly begged Long Yinzhan to get close to her. He clearly wanted to get Long Yinzhan's attention. However, when Long Yinzhan's gentleness towards her made her realize that everything was not a dream, his heart sank into a state of anxiety and unease. She blocked a move for Long Yinzhan and was almost engulfed by the flames, turning into ashes. It wasn't because she wanted to exchange for Long Yinzhan's sympathy. Chapter 1535. If it was only because of this that Long Yinzhan felt guilty towards her, she would rather not have this gentleness. Long Yinzhan continued to treat her gently. She was afraid that she would get used to this gentleness and sink into it. At that time, he would never be able to extricate himself. There were no more words between the two of them. Zhu Wuxin, who was lying behind Qiqi, looked coldly at the two people in front of him. In his heart, he snorted disdainfully at the relationship between the two. The woman clearly loved the man. However, she had no choice but to push the man away. And the man clearly cared about the woman. However, he didn't say anything to comfort her for a long time, and really left the woman. Even he, who had never cared about the affairs between men and women, knew. A woman's words usually didn't match her heart. Tell him not to be so gentle. The subtext was for him to be more gentle. Zhu Wuxin was extremely disdainful of such feelings. In his opinion, since you like someone, that person must belong to him. He wanted him to see the woman he loved deeply with another man. He could not be that magnanimous. Not to mention, she was bashful and didn't even dare to say that she liked him. Even dare not say the love. Is it really love? Zhu Wuxian gave a cold laugh, as he immediately turned his vision towards one side. Towards Yiqing Luo, who was sitting on the back of the nine-tailed fox, snuggling up to Dmo Xian. The cold light in his eyes was faintly discernible. We're here. With a clear cry, the scarlet flaming wings brought a gust of strong wind. Soon after, everyone felt a scorching wave of air pressing down on their faces. We're out. Zhou carried Kitty Li and jumped down from Scarlet Flame's back. He glanced around the room. This was the place where they had been sucked into the foundation grounds. It was that piece of land which had been turned into ruins by Yiqing Luo and Imperial Palace's granny, as well as Zhu Wuxian and Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo and the others came down from the sacred beast's back. When everyone was standing on the ground, she and Dmo Xian then kept their respective sacred beasts properly. Let's return to the outer perimeter first. After Gue Wu said those words, his figure flashed as he hurriedly rushed back in the direction he had come from. His pace was extremely fast, and the expression on his face was serious. Clearly, Gue Wu had also sensed the danger. Hey, wait for me. Before Zhou Mo could finish his words, Gue Wu's figure had already disappeared from everyone's sight. Zhou Mo clicked his tongue and muttered to himself, he's so impatient again. Only I can stand his character. Then he lowered his eyes. His almond-shaped eyes were glowing as he stared at the person in his arms. His slender fingers hooked around her chin. Little wildcat, this young master will go take a look at A's condition first. After that, this young master will personally train you. Bah, frivolous man, hurry up and let go of Kitty. Kitty won't train with you. Kitty Li gritted her teeth and glared at him angrily. This time, Zhou Mo didn't act the same as before. She took the opportunity to attack Kitty Li. He took the opportunity to tease Kitty Li. He really put Kitty Li on the ground. You. Kitty Li stared at Zhou Mo in astonishment. She couldn't believe that this frivolous man would really let go of her. Only her astonishment didn't last for more than a few breaths. In the eyes that were like the vast sea of stars, the extremely devilish face suddenly enlarged. Following that, Zhou Mo's warm thin lips landed in between Kitty Li's brows. That touch was extremely soft and warm, as though this kiss had fallen right into her heart. Kitty Li's heart suddenly pounded. Before she could react, the figure in front of her had already disappeared. Chapter 1536. Kitty Lee stood there in a daze. She could still vaguely hear Zomo's whisper in her ear. He said, "When the training starts, the kisses won't stop here." Her cheeks were inexplicably dyed red. It was as if she was on fire, making her extremely shy. By the time she regained her senses, Kitty Lee saw Yiqing Luo and Yan Xiaoyi's mischievous smiles. Kitty Lee stomped her feet angrily. That frivolous man, he actually flirted with Kitty again. Kitty must bite him to death. This chop caused Kitty Lee to be stunned once again. The injury she had suffered at the hands of the Imperial Palace's old granny had completely healed. If she was still in the Foundation land, it would be difficult for her to even stand. Therefore, whether it was fighting against the flaming beasts or walking on foot, Zomo continued to hold her in his arms. But now she just kept stomping her feet. He did not feel any pain coming from his body. He circulated his xianqi in his body. His external and internal injuries were indeed completely healed. Was it Zomo? The expression on Kitty Lee's face was rather complicated. Let's rush back to the wooden shed to take a look at the situation. Yiqing Luo didn't have the mood to bother about what happened between Li Mao and Zomo. From Zomo's attitude, Yiqing Luo didn't feel any bit of malicious intent. As the princess of the Cat Beast clan, Kitty Lee's perception was the strongest. Although she said that she disliked Zomo very much, but if she really felt Zomo's malice with Kitty Lee's fierce nature, she would definitely not let Zomo do anything to her, even if it meant perishing together. Right now, the most important thing was to get back to the wooden shed. He wanted to see if the students had been taken advantage of by the dark forces. The group of people immediately followed the path they came from and hurriedly rushed back. Not far from the wooden shed, there was an open space that could hold about 5,000 people. More than 1,000 students were undergoing excruciating torture. They had already run 5 laps around this place. He ran until he was out of breath. Instructor Run and Instructor Fong did not give them any time to rest. Then he arranged the next squat training, followed by a set of physical training. There were 5 types of physical training. After the training of these 5 categories, Li Tianlan was stunned. Only then could he enter the stage of Qi training. These students were suffering unspeakably. There were already quite a number of students who lost their ability to move after running 5 laps and directly fainted. Some students were already out of breath and fell to the ground when they reached the second segment of squats. There were also students who had an advantage and managed to reach the 4th category. Of the students who managed to achieve the 4th category, at least 20 of them were students from the Devil class, mixed with a few students from other academies. Zi Qianqian, who was still in the 2nd category, panted heavily. She kept squatting and standing up, squatting and standing up. Their hearts were on the brink of collapse. Yiqing Luo, that slut. We are suffering here, but she ran away. Zi Qianqian gritted his teeth in anger. Su Xiaolian was standing by the side, as she was so tired that her forehead was filled with sweat. Goddess Qianqian, Master Gui Wu and Instructor Zhou have personally gone to catch that slut Yiqing Luo. When they return, that slut's reputation will definitely be swept clean. Zi Qianqian's face turned gloomy as he thought of how carefree and unfettered Yiqing Luo might be right now. The jealousy and hatred in his heart grew. Chapter 1537. Su Xiaoyan's expression stiffened slightly as she pursed her lips in grievance. Goddess Qianqian, I am. She had obviously followed Zi Qianqian's instructions. This did not achieve the desired effect. How could she be blamed for this? But after meeting Zi Qianqian's cold eyes, Su Xiaolian cleverly kept her mouth shut. She turned and pleaded in a low voice. It's my fault. Goddess Qianqian, it's all my fault. I'm useless. Please don't be angry with me. She was now on Zi Qianqian's side. Several actions had provoked public anger. The other students of the Heavenly Academy wanted to skin her alive the moment they saw her. The only person Su Xiaolian could rely on now was Zi Qianqian. Zi Qianqian snorted coldly as her willowy eyebrows knitted tightly together. She turned her head away as if she didn't want to pay attention to Su Xiaolian. Su Xiaolian was flustered. After a few rounds of pleading, Zi Qianqian's expression still did not ease. She bit her lower lip as if she had made a difficult decision. Goddess Qianqian, if you really want that slut's life, I have a way. Zi Qianqian glanced at her disdainfully. What way do you have? Come with me to see someone. Su Xiaoyan clenched her fist as if she thought of that person, and her delicate body couldn't help but tremble slightly. Zi Qianqian didn't notice Su Xiaoyan's abnormality, but when he heard her say this, his tone was obviously a lot more dignified. Zi Qianqian raised her brows. Who can help me take that slut's life? You will know when you get there. Su Xiaoyan saw Zi Qianqian's interest and immediately persuaded. Goddess Qianqian, I will not let you down again. Looking at Su Xiaoyan's firm eyes and her pleading look, Zi Qianqian pondered suspiciously. If Su Xiaoyan had someone she could rely on, how could he possibly be entangled around her? But looking at Su Xiaoyan's expression, it didn't seem like she was lying. Could it be? Su Xiaoyan really had a way to find someone to take Yiqing Luo's life? If she was able to kill Yiqing Luo and not suspect her, it wasn't impossible for him to meet the person that Su Xiaoyan was talking about. In any case, Su Xiaoyan didn't have the guts to scheme against her. Thinking of this, Zi Qianqian squinted her cold and arrogant beautiful eyes and snorted lightly. I will give you one more chance. If this time, you are still unable to take Yiqing Luo's life, you know the consequences. Yes. Su Xiaoyan nodded vigorously and excitedly replied. Yes, several times. Suddenly, an extremely noisy voice came from the crowd. Immediately after, the two instructors called out in joy. Master Gui Wu, Ghost Martial Master. Had Gui Wu and the others returned? Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaoyan immediately turned their gazes towards Gui Wu. Sure enough, an extremely cold and indifferent young man in a black robe appeared before everyone's eyes. That pair of cold, piercing eyes revealed a light that was extremely inconsistent with that face. Sweeping his gaze across the students present, Gui Wu asked in an indifferent voice, Did anything happen? Replying to Master, Everything is normal and there is no danger. Instructor Ren raised his smiling face as he reported respectfully. Gui Wu nodded his head and immediately turned around. Placing his hands behind his back, he didn't say another word and left the empty space. Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaoyan exchanged glances. The two of them didn't see Yiqing Luo's figure beside Gui Wu. Could it be? Chapter 1538. Before long, Zomo's figure flew over in a hurry. He paused for a moment, looked around, and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He had known Gui Wu for nearly 2 years. He more or less had some understanding of the ghost warrior's temperament. When they were still in the sky above the sea of fire, Gui Wu saw Yiqing Luo's grave expression, and immediately changed his expression, forcing Qi Yan to speed up. He immediately understood Gui Wu's thoughts. Something might have happened to these students. On the surface, Gui Wu did not have any good feelings towards the students from the various academies. However, deep in his heart, he still cared about these students. Otherwise, he wouldn't have given up on his most beloved cultivation and spent all his time training these students. Fortunately, these students were all fine. Zhou Mo heaved a long sigh of relief. Old Ren, where's Ah Wu? Instructor Ren shook his head. Master Gui Wu stood here for a while before leaving. Thank you for your hard work. After saying this, Zomo's figure disappeared from everyone's sight. The two instructors looked at each other. They really did not understand what was going on with these two great Buddhas coming one after the other. Could it be, student Yiqing Luo had already been murdered? This thought made the two instructors' hearts tremble. Towards this classmate of Yiqing Luo, they rather admired her. After all, after so many years of being an instructor, he had never met a student like Yiqing Luo. If such an outstanding student were to really be harmed in the flame nest, what a pity. The two instructors looked at each other and shook their heads regretfully. With a sigh, they separated. Not far away, Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaoyan, who were drenched in sweat and had no strength left in their bodies, had been paying close attention to the two instructors' expressions. After seeing the regretful expressions on the two's faces, Zi Qianqian's eyes lit up. Looks like Master Gui Wu and Instructor Zhou didn't manage to get that slut Yiqing Luo back. That seems to be the case. Su Xiaoyan couldn't laugh anymore. If Yiqing Luo wasn't found, which meant that something had happened to Yiqing Luo. In other words, Zi Qianqian no longer needed to make use of her. Moreover, the temptation and fawning that she had tossed to Zi Qianqian just now were no longer there. The flame lair is such a dangerous place. No matter how powerful that bitch is, it's impossible for her to return alive. Zi Qianqian gritted his teeth as he spoke, his eyes shooting out a cold killing intent. It would be best if those two trash from Devil class who went to look for the little slut also died outside. Su Xiaoyan carefully echoed from the side. But the smile on his face was so forced. Zi Qianqian also noticed Su Xiaoyan's expression after gritting his teeth. Then, the corners of her mouth curled into a beautiful but cold smile. Student Su, since the little B*TCH is dead, I think our cooperation should end here. Goddess Qianqian. Su Xiaoyan raised her head in astonishment. She hadn't expected that Zi Qianqian would burn the bridge so quickly. Zi Qianqian wiped the sweat off his forehead. Her overly long bangs stuck to her face, but it made her face, which was full of smiles, look a little flirtatious. That pair of beautiful eyes flashed with a profound meaning. Su Xiaoyan's heart tightened. A sense of danger spread in his heart. Zi Qianqian had developed killing intent towards her. That's right. Zi Qianqian had always been noble and elegant in front of others, as cold and elegant as a fairy who had left the secular world. But she had been following beside Zi Qianqian and knew his real face. Chapter 1539. Whereas on the other side, Devil class and other students also sensed that something was amiss, as all of their faces revealed an anxious and uneasy expression. They had already completed the 5 rounds of physical training. It was resting time now. They pestered the 2 instructors to inquire about Yiqing Luo and Long Yunzhan's situation. How would the 2 instructors know about the situation? But from Gui Wu and Zhou Mo earlier, they saw their complicated expressions. Deep in their hearts, they thought that Yiqing Luo should have met with danger. Facing these students' bombardment of questioning, they were more or less in a dilemma of how to open their mouths. This bit of hesitation made Devil class's students even more worried. When Zi Qianqian saw this situation, the smile on his face grew brighter. The exhaustion from physical training was swept away at this moment. Just at this moment, not too far away, there was a commotion. It seemed like someone was arguing about something. Following that, they saw a group of people walking on the wind not too far away from the open space. Right at the front was a man and a lady. The man was peerless, like a celestial being. The lady was devastatingly beautiful, like a fairy. The 2 of them walked hand in hand, like a beautiful painting. When the lady's face was completely revealed, the students from various academies immediately recognized her. Student Yiqing Luo. It's Student Yiqing Luo. The students looked at Yiqing Luo in astonishment. Not knowing why, that young lady who was covered in blood was obviously in a sorry state. But at this moment, there was a sense of majesty which made one unable to look straight at her. That kind of invisible, imposing manner. It made one subconsciously want to submit to her. What was going on? Yiqing Luo's imposing manner was indeed very strong. But she didn't seem to be that strong. When everyone's vision fell onto the man beside Yiqing Luo, who had the same outstanding temperament, their hearts suddenly started to tremble uncontrollably. Purple robe, peerless style. Wasn't this the legendary overlord? Most of the students present knew about this. Yiqing Luo and the rumored overlord had a close relationship. They had not expected that they would actually meet the overlord here. The students were extremely shocked. Some of them kept denying Mo Xian's identity in their hearts. Someone who looks good in purple might not be the overlord. That's right. His Majesty is very busy every day. How could he have time to come to such a place? I heard that the Overlord has been dealing with the war between the Imperial Palace and the Dark Forces recently. This person is definitely not the Overlord. However, in the next instant, the two instructors recovered from the shock and immediately walked forward, cupping their fists respectfully. Master Dizun. They were instructors under the ghost martial artist. He had been training students in various academies all year round. Naturally, she was fortunate enough to have seen Dmo Xian's face. Dmo Xian took a look at the two instructors and his thin lips curled up slightly, revealing a faint smile. The both of you must be little Luo's instructors. I'll have to trouble the both of you to take care of little Luo. The two instructors were stunned. At the same time, he took a glance at Yiqing Luo who was standing beside Dmo Xian. He immediately understood and quickly put on a smiling face. Overlord is too polite. Student Yiqing Luo is a rare talent. We are just fulfilling our duty as instructors. This scene shocked the students. The students who were still doing physical training fell to the ground one by one. Oh my God! Did they hear wrongly? The Overlord actually smiled at the two instructors because of Yiqing Luo? And he smiled in such a melancholic manner. That made one's heart palpitate. Where was the cold and aloof Overlord? Where was the cold and unfeeling Overlord? Chapter 1540. Rumors were indeed untrustworthy. While they were chatting, Instructor Luo and Instructor Li walked over one after another. On Instructor Luo's back, there was a man who seemed to be seriously injured. In Long Yunzhan's arms was a woman. The group of people came back. Not a single person was missing. Everyone had returned. What's going on? Instructor Run went up to Instructor Luo. When he saw the face of the man on his back, his face turned pale. This is young Master Zhu? Instructor Luo nodded. Bring young Master Zhu to the wooden shed first and treat his wounds. As he spoke, he was about to walk towards the wooden shed. Instructor Luo, there's no need. Dmo Xian calmly said. I still have some matters to attend to and will be leaving soon. Leave this young Master Zhu to me. This. Instructor Luo stopped in his tracks. He had been following them all the way. How could they not see the open strife and veiled struggle between Dmo Xian and Zhu Wuxian? Chu Wuxin and Dmo Xian were obviously love rivals. If he handed Zhu Wuxian over to Dmo Xian, if anything happened to Zhu Wuxian, Death God Castle and the power behind Zhu Wuxian would not let them off. However, if he didn't hand it over, he would be defying the Dizun's orders. It was hard to get off the tiger. Don't worry, Instructor Luo. I'm not interested in him at all. Dmo Xian narrowed his peach blossom eyes as he shot a glance at Zhu Wuxian with a smile that didn't look like a smile. Since this lord is unable to accompany Lil Luo, or to train, then Chu Wuxian absolutely cannot stay here. Instructor Luo. Why do I suddenly feel like the Overlord's jealousy was so childish? Was this an illusion? Instructor Luo, don't worry. Xian knows what he's doing. Yiqing Luo naturally guessed what Instructor Luo was concerned about as she opened her mouth and spoke in a warm voice. Hand Zhu Wuxian over to Xian. Xian will bring Zhu Wuxian to Death God Castle's people. Seeing that Yiqing Luo had already opened her mouth, Instructor Luo hesitated for a moment, but still passed Zhu Wuxian to Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo urged them to take a look at Tong Ziqing's wound. Then he sent this group of people away. The students of Devil class immediately rushed forward. Slowly, only Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian were left. Of course, this also included Zhu Wuxin, who was lying on the side, as well as the surrounding students who were staring at them dumbfoundedly. I'm leaving. Dmo Xian stared at Yiqing Luo's face with an infatuated gaze. Yiqing Luo replied with a soft N. If he hadn't been sucked into the foundation of the fire lair, he would have died. Dmo Xian had probably returned to the Imperial Palace. But because of her, he had stayed for such a long time. He was afraid that the Imperial Palace was already in chaos. Yiqing Luo could not bear for Dmo Xian to leave her. However, he had no choice but to do so. After I'm done, I'll stay with you and watch you grow. Dmo Xian stretched out his long arm and pulled her into his embrace as he gently kissed her on the head. Lil Luo, today's matter, I will absolutely not allow it to happen again. If I find out that you're trying to be brave again, I will use my own method to imprison you by my side forever. The elegant sandalwood scent on him made Yiqing Luo slightly intoxicated. She replied with a soft "n" as her arms wrapped tightly around his firm waist. Raising her eyes, she met with that pair of vibrant peach blossom eyes. Her charming eyes curved. Ah Xian, I'll wait for you. Dmo Xian's eyes flashed. He bent over and kissed Yiqing Luo's pink lips fiercely. Chapter 1541. He didn't care about the gazes around him at all. Or perhaps, Dmo Xian did it on purpose. In front of the various academy students, he intentionally acted intimately with Yiqing Luo. It was to announce to the various academy students that Yiqing Luo was his, Dmo Xian's woman. Yiqing Luo had already been labeled as his exclusive Dmo Xian. This not only stopped the other men from having other thoughts towards Yiqing Luo, it also intimidated those students not to attempt to do anything to Yiqing Luo. This kiss didn't last as long as usual. Perhaps it was because she was so infatuated with him in front of everyone. Yiqing Luo felt her entire body turning soft as her body started to heat up slightly. If not for Dmo Xian's embrace around her waist, she might not even be able to stand properly. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo glared at him resentfully. This stare made the glint in Dmo Xian's eyes dimmer and dimmer. It was like a whirlpool. Something was constantly surging and spinning. Dmo Xian's throat moved as he swallowed. She would never know how alluring she was right now. Because of that kiss, her cheeks were dyed red, revealing traces of enchanting charm. Her pink lips were slightly red and swollen, glistening with a suggestive sheen. This glare. How was that glaring? It was clearly a hint of coquettishness and flirtatious eyes. I'll leave first. When you miss me, don't forget to speak to me through the profound phoenix ring. Dmo Xian felt that if he stayed any longer, he might not be able to control himself. His words had just ended. Without waiting for Yiqing Luo's response, Dmo Xian's figure had already disappeared before their eyes, blending into the air. Yiqing Luo's outstretched hand froze in midair. She took a few steps forward. Then he stopped where he was. The slender hand in midair gradually curled up its fingers one by one. Then he returned it to his chest. The expression on her face was still as calm as ever, but there was a glimmer in her charming eyes. It clearly revealed the reluctance in her heart. Qing Luo, Ziqing's wound seems to have split open. Suddenly, Long Yunzhan's shout came from behind. Yiqing Luo readjusted her emotions as she turned around and walked towards Long Yunzhan's direction. The moment she turned around, Long Yunzhan lowered his eyes. His azure blue eyes were filled with unnaturalness. His eyes met Tong Ziqing's beautiful eyes. He was startled and looked away in panic. Therefore, he did not see the pain flowing in Tong Ziqing's eyes and the tears of self-mockery. As expected, rejecting his gentleness was the right choice. In Long Yunzhan's heart, there was only Yiqing Luo right from the start. Her wound did not split open. Long Yunzhan wasn't willing to see Yiqing Luo's reluctance towards Dmo Xian, hence he used this excuse to divert Yiqing Luo's attention. Tong Ziqing closed her eyes. A crystal-clear tear rolled down from the corner of his eye. She endured the dull pain in her heart. When she opened her eyes again, she had already recovered her usual cold and arrogant demeanor. By the time Yiqing Luo walked to his side, she suddenly struggled a little in Long Yunzhan's arms. Then a tearing pain came from the burning wound on his back. Her face turned pale as she looked at Yiqing Luo. Qing Luo, I'm in so much pain. Yiqing Luo hurried over. Let's go to the wooden shed first. The others prepare clean water. Saying that, she dragged Long Yunzhan as she hurriedly rushed towards the direction of the wooden shed. Long Yunzhan followed behind as he staggered a little. His expression was complicated as he looked at the person in his arms. He felt a warm, sticky feeling coming from his palm. His body suddenly froze. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.